Chapter 23. Tuesday, August 25, 9:30. Wait here, Marescu ordered. Caramarin had driven them over to an abandoned sanatorium in the run-down suburbs to the south of Odessa. Gone were the beautiful pastel-colored classical buildings of the city center. This was the part that the tourists never came to. Grim post-war Soviet-era buildings crumbled and peeled in the sun. Many of the buildings were empty. The people looked as downtrodden and defeated as the buildings around them. Caramarin knew Marescu had only recently bought this sanatorium. He was converting it into a massage parlor on the first floor and a recording studio on the second floor with an office for an internet dating agency he was thinking of setting up. "We may be some time, cunt." Placid grinned at him. Caramarin watched as they opened the steel shutter and let themselves in. He caught a glimpse of builder's tools as the shutter opened. He settled down in the Merc's leather seat and switched on Prostor Radio 102.5 FM. Poking out from under the passenger seat, he saw Marescu's laptop bag. This never left Marescu's side these days. Caramarin prided himself on being good for his age. Yes, he was in his very late 30s, but he looked younger. He worked out, kept in shape. Had a grade 10. Okay, there were a few gray streaks in his dark hair and more lines about his eyes than he liked. When he looked in the mirror, his eyes looked tired and burned out. But he was trim and didn't have much trouble with the ladies when he put his mind to it. But computers made him feel like an ancient Jurassic fossil. He'd never had much to do with computers. Kept away from that side of things at Marescu's business. Knew they were the future and he was being left behind, but there was a part of him that hoped he could get away with ignoring them. However, he'd seen Marescu on the laptop enough times. Frowning with concentration, he switched the damn machine on. A host of icons materialized on the screen. Some he knew were business documents and spreadsheets. One was for the internet. He knew enough that some were for watching DVDs or videos. There was one folder marked dog food. Dog food. Caramarin thought. Apart from a few Rottweilers as guard dogs. Back at his villa, Marescu had nothing to do with dogs. The man wasn't even into dog fights. Never heard that Marescu even had any business interests in dog food factories, even as a money laundering front. He clicked on the icon. It flashed up a password request. Fuck shit, fuck shit, fuck shit. He glanced at his watch. On past times when Marescu and Placid had been at the sanatorium, they'd been at least an hour or more. Plenty of time. He reckoned this chance wouldn't come again. Fuck it, let's do it. Fired up the Merc and headed southwest. Just because he was out of his depth didn't mean he couldn't find some tetchy whiz kid geek who knew what to do. Pulled up at an internet cafe. Didn't seem to do much in the way of food or drink, but it did do computers. Pushing open the door, he saw several Afghan men hunched over their screens and one or two Africans and Indians. Guessed they were here on their way to trying to break into the EU. They looked like they were in touch with their families back home. One lad who couldn't have been more than 19 or 20 was playing some online war game. He seemed to be playing a Taliban Mujahideen warrior, killing epic amounts of US Marines in a dusty village. The graphics amazed Caramarin. If war was really like that, there'd soon be no Marines left. He waited a minute for the slaughter to stop. The young man sensed Caramarin watching and turned with a look of annoyance. Speak Ukrainian? Want earn a little money? He rubbed his fingers together. Yes to both, actually. His voice was soft and cultured. Not what Caramarin expected. He pulled over a spare chair and sat next to the lad. Caramarin showed him the laptop. Can you copy these files? One of them has a password. That's the one I probably need. Did you forget your password, then? Yes. Sort of. The lad looked at Caramarin with shrewd eyes. I'm afraid it won't be cheap. Go and get a DVD and I'll make a start. Why do I want a DVD? I don't want to watch a movie. I need to download the copied files onto it, don't I? Feeling like a fool, Caramarin bought a blank disc from the Chechen behind the counter. Grinning, the young Afghan was already working on the laptop. He was totally engrossed in his work, his fingers rapidly moving over the keyboard as he delved into the guts of the laptop. He was bringing up screens that Caramarin had never seen before. As the geek worked, Caramarin asked how he spoke such good Ukrainian. I should do. I've lived here all my life. My dad was a translator for the Soviets back in the 80s. When they left, he came with them. Some of his mates were from round here, so he came to stay. He didn't fancy living somewhere cold. Now he's a professor of languages at the university. Couldn't have picked a better spot then. Caramarin was surprised. He'd taken the lad for a homesick refugee, but, like Caramarin, he had chosen to live here. Can you do it, then? A glance at his watch. How long will you be? Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. What about the password? Anyone could get round that. Especially as you had it written down in another file. Oh, did I? Caramarin felt old and foolish. Not a good feeling. He was looking at the future and he wasn't part of it. A sudden gasp. Caramarin saw a young girl on the screen, a naked Placid, standing over her with a chain. She looked like she was maybe 16 or 17. She was tied down onto a pallet. Another man in a gimp mask was sporting a boner. Like a baseball bat. Bloody hell. It's not your lappy, is it? No, Caramarin confessed. It's the man I work for. But I guess you knew that before, didn't you? Yes. If you're going to blackmail this bastard, cut me in. No. Not blackmail. I'm going to bring those bastards down. He paid the young man, took the DVD and shook hands. Good luck and take care with what you're doing. If I can help you any, let me know. I'm here most days. Caramarin jumped in the Mercedes, slid the laptop back under the seat and tried to arrange it into the exact same spot as before. He slipped the DVD into his breast pocket. His cell rang. Marescu headed back to the sanatorium as quick as possible, only to find Marescu and Litovchenko standing on the pavement. Where you been? Yeah, cunt. Told you to wait, didn't I? Sorry. The militia were nosing about. Didn't want to draw attention to myself, did I? Marescu glanced at the laptop resting in the footwell. No, you did right. Come on, let's go. Cunt. That evening, Caramarin told Valeria he had a headache and wouldn't go down to the casino later on. He scored points by saying he would stay over at her place and look after Vladimir. She kissed him. Get better soon, love. I'll be back the usual time. After she left, he read a story to little Vlad. As soon as the boy was asleep, Caramarin booted up Valeria's old laptop and loaded the DVD. It was worse than he thought. He'd always reckoned he was a hard man. Seen bad things in Romania and worse in Bosnia. Done bad things, too. But this cruelty for entertainment pure sickened him. He'd seen enough after a few minutes but carried on. There were many video files on the disc. Mostly, it was Moresco and Placid. With teenage girls and young women, none older than their early 20s. There was often a third man always wearing a gimp mask, another bouncer with a massive prison tattoo he knew worked on the doors of the Arcadia clubs, a short tattooed thug, occasionally a huge African. But the poor girls, tied up, chained, whipped, flogged, and beaten with what looked like a car aerial, violated with anything they could ram in, raped, gang raped, sodomized, burned with cigarettes, pinched with pliers. Their screams echoing in his head. He poured a big slug of vodka and knocked it back. He'd seen enough. His mind felt violated and dirty and unclean. He took out the disc and hid it in a book. Then he sat at the kitchen table, drank vodka, and thought. Midnight came and went. Caramarin was more than half in the bag when Valeria came home from her shift. She saw that something was wrong as soon as she saw the vodka, as Caramarin wasn't one for drinking alone. She checked on Vlad, then pulled out a chair and sat down next to him. She rested her head on his shoulder. He turned bleak, bloodshot eyes on her. You know, when you were a dancer, before you met me, did you ever have to do stuff? I mean bad stuff you didn't want to do. You know, I don't talk about that time, love. I needed money to get by. Times were hard back then, remember? He looked at her, eyes still searching for answers. From her or elsewhere. I wasn't a virgin. I been around the block a few times. But I mean real bad. You know, video nasties, bondage, sadism, hardcore stuff. No. I never did that. I knew a few girls who got into that scene, but they didn't last too long. She frowned. What's all this about, Nick? You? I can't say. Oh, what's it come to? I can't carry on like this much longer. Valeria knew Caramarin better than he thought. Is it that man Morescu? He getting into porno now as well? Caramarin jerked in alarm. He grabbed her arm. Don't say nothing. Not to anyone. Not to the girls at work. You don't know what these guys are capable of. They'd wipe you out without a second thought. Now she knew. I been around. I know enough to keep my mouth shut. She stood and tugged on Caramarin's arm. You've had enough, love. Come to bed, please. He followed her to the bedroom and climbed in after her. After what he'd seen and the amount he'd shipped, he wasn't in the mood. He held her tight, soaking in her warmth and softness. She was good for him, didn't want to lose her, needed her life and love. Eventually, he turned over and fell into dark sleep. Chapter 24. Monday, August 31, midnight. Over the next few weeks, Caramarin made several more trips to the lockup at Constanta docks, and once, a longer journey to the beautiful city of Lviv near the Polish border. He saw why it was called the Florence of the East. Green church, domes and Italianate red tile roofs, but surrounded by grim Soviet-era apartment blocks. Wished he could have spent more time there. All the people he drove were young, attractive women. If you looked beneath the exhaustion and messiness from long-distance travel, some were beautiful. All were drained, all were either frightened or at least apprehensive. All clutched their bags close to their bodies. Some were Ukrainian, some Russian, some from the Central Asian countries, and some from further east. One or two spoke no language that any member of the gang understood. From his time in the Caucasus, Oilfield thought one was speaking Kalmyk, but he wasn't sure. He never heard again from the Turkic girl, nor from the couple of other girls. He passed his cell number on to. Wasn't flattering himself, Figured they knew he wasn't after their bodies. But would have liked to hear they were safe. And so the worm of disquiet bored deeper into his mind. But the money was good and the booze and coke buried it deep. Towards the end of the month, his brain was scrambled with the amount of chemicals floating about in his body. Getting hard to know what day it was. Didn't need to know, only that it was another trip down to Constanta. This time, only 3 women waited at Marescu's new salon for collection. One, a slim, fair girl maybe only 18 or 19, was clutching her stomach, her face a mask of pain. Instead of the usual minibus Marescu had hired a VW Passat. This time, only Oilfield was going with Caramarin. Tense and edgy, coming down from his coke jag, his red eyes gritty and staring, Caramarin drove out of the city. The street lights flickered past monotonously. Oilfield settled down in the front passenger seat and quickly nodded off. He turned round to the back seat. "Can't you shut that girl up?" he snapped. "She's in pain," one of the others said. "Well, she's doing my head in. Keep her quiet, or else." They cuddled the girl and held her tight and made soothing noises. "And you two can shut up as well." The car lapsed into sullen silence, broken only by the occasional moan from the back seat. He could feel the waves of animosity washing over him. Like he cared. He stopped at the usual garage in Romania to give them a comfort break. By now, he'd calmed down a bit although still tired. He parked and opened the rear door. "For the girls." "I'm sorry," I shouted, he apologized. "Stress, but I'm sorry." He pointed to the lavatories, then unscrewed the gas cap and unhooked the nozzle from the pump. He watched as the 3 girls walked across the forecourt, the 2 still supporting the teenager. Bad time of the month, that, he said to himself. Paid for the gasoline, bought a few celeb magazines for the girls by way of apology. Had a can of soda. Where the hell were they? Looked at his watch. Gave them a few more minutes, then strolled over to the ladies. He rapped on the door and opened it a few centimeters. "Sorry to trouble you, but we need to go soon. Everything okay in there?" "No, we're not. She's still bleeding." Figured that out, he thought. "Look, we've got to go soon." "Not yet, we can't." "Do you need me to get anything for her?" "You know." "No." "Well, hurry up then. For fuck's sake." Women. He waited a few more minutes, looking at his watch. Every few seconds. Then knocked on the door again. "I'm coming in, okay." He ignored their protests and pushed open the door. The girl was crouching on her heels, leaning against the cubicle wall. One of the others was standing in front of her, holding her, trying to cover her from his sight. The other tried to push him out the door. "What's going on?" Confused. "You bastard, you fucking bastard, the lot of you," the woman pushing him shouted. He looked at the woman. She was strong for her size. Her face was twisted with rage and fear. Caramarin shoved her off him. She reeled back into the toilets. Slipped on the wet floor but stayed on her feet. The other 2 turned to face him but cowered away in terror. Caramarin spread his arms wide, smiled, and tried to appear as non-threatening as possible. "Look, what's going on?" he repeated. "Tell me what's the problem, please." "You bastards raped her." "That's what happened." He hadn't expected that. "What? Who, when?" "Don't tell me you don't know what's been done to her. You're part of the gang. How many have you raped, you bastard?" "No one." "Who did this to her?" "That old man with black hair and the big bald one with the goatee and Tattoos. Marescu and that psycho nutter Litovchenko. So that was what they were doing now. I had no idea. I'm only the driver. Sort of true. What does she want to do? She's still bleeding, you bastard, they really ripped her up inside. She needs a doctor. Caramarin felt a draft behind him as the door opened. We'll get her seen to, when we get there, okay. Another voice. Oilfield stood there with his hand in his pocket. We haven't got far to go and she'll be looked after. No, you bastard, said the woman. She needs to go to the police, she needs a doctor. Yeah, when we get there, said Oilfield. We're not going with you. The other two girls looked up at their leader. No choice, bitch, Oilfield's fist slammed into her face, knocking the woman down. She cried out. Blood now smeared her face from her cut lip. As she struggled to recover and sit up, Caramarin turned to Oilfield. Saw that? He was holding a small pistol, maybe a .38, and was covering the women. The pistol wasn't exactly pointing at Caramarin either, but its barrel was sort of in the same general direction. Caramarin offered his hand to the floored woman. She pushed it away and stood up, wiped away the blood with her hand and spat between his boots. Hurry up, girls. Back to the car. Oilfield held open the door and motioned them out with his gun. Caramarin stepped to the crouching teen who was moaning to herself, but she shrugged off his hand like it was diseased and managed to stand without help. The other girls helped her over to the car. Nice ass, said Oilfield following behind. Bet that was a nice tight slot. Should have cut myself a slice of that, too. Caramarin felt like slugging him, but as the man had a pistol and a hair trigger temper, he just kept silent. The girls got in the back again. Caramarin drove through the rest of the night, aware of Oilfield's pistol only just hidden under a map on his lap. Shortly after they left the garage, Oilfield sent several texts, but never said who they were to. In the dark hour before dawn, when tiredness is at its peak, they drew up at the Constanta lockup. Caramarin beeped the horn. This time two women came out of the lockup, the smartly dressed older woman he'd seen every time before and a younger one with a round, friendly face. No sign of the young man this time. Don't say anything, okay, Oilfield told Caramarin. As the man was still holding the pistol, Caramarin just nodded. He opened the rear door, but looking at the disgust on the girls' faces, he just stepped away. The teenage victim stood bravely, holding her head up. In the headlights, she still looked in pain, but some of the horror had now left her face. Caramarin opened the trunk and passed them their bags. Good luck, he said. The girls ignored him and followed the older woman into the lockup. Job done. Let's go, said Oilfield. Caramarin fired up the Passat, swung round, the headlights arcing through the night, and headed back up the dock road. Wish I'd had a piece of that. Nice and tight, said Oilfield. Should have asked the boss. Shut up. Touchy, aren't you? Caramarin wasn't about to start a row with Oilfield, especially not when the man had a pistol on him. And, if his boss was into raping girls, what could, or would, he do about it? Also, he was exhausted from the long drive. Instead he concentrated on the road. But this wasn't what he'd signed on for. Wished he had some coke on him to help him think. Chapter 25. Tuesday, 1 September 2100 hours. Heard you weren't too happy last night? Marescu asked. His feet were up on his desk, his tie undone, and he was tapping away on his laptop. An ashtray overflowed onto the desk. The room reeked of stale smoke and sweat. Could say that, replied Caramarin. So, what's the problem? Want more money? No. Maybe want a slice of some pussy for yourself? No, he shouted. You and that bastard Litovchenko raped that young girl. Maresca looked up. No, we didn't. She was gagging for it. And we paid her good money, too. You mean an 18, 19-year-old girl wanted you two to shag her? Until she bled? Kman. Maybe Litovchenko got a little out of hand. But she wanted the money. Desperate for it, he leered. In all senses. He looked down and carried on tipping. Bet she never mentioned the money? No, thought not. Anyway, what does it matter? She'll get over it. Caramarin stood to go. Look, you're a good man to have around, Nicolae. Better than most of the thuds working for me. Maresca peeled off some paper and passed it over. But if you have a problem with working for me, I can always replace you. What do they say? Something like the graveyards are full of indispensable men? Capus. Caramarin nodded. Left Marescu on the phone to some bank in Liechtenstein. Took the money and let himself out. Felt like he needed a long shower. Caramarin couldn't get out of driving women over to Constanta. He was the only one, apart from Marescu himself, who spoke Romanian. Also, he held a genuine Romanian passport. Marescu paid him more and the next run went smoothly. Barely held up at customs and he picked up a nice bonus. This time, none of the women were crying or seemed knocked about. Yes, they were quiet and subdued, but they'd already had a long journey and faced another. After that, it went quiet until Maresca called him in for another trip. Let himself into the warehouse to find a much larger group of 8 or 9 women standing about the minibus. As always, all were young and attractive but one girl, a tall statuesque strawberry blonde with incredible blue eyes stood out. She was one of the most beautiful young women he'd ever seen. And this was in Odessa, a city famed for its beautiful women. Yeah, she looked tired but nothing could hide her beauty. Maresca drew him aside with a big grin plastered over his face. See that one? Last year's Miss Ukraine. Caramarin remembered some scandal. Something to do with drugs and a government minister's party in a museum. Didn't she have an abortion and was stripped of her title? Something like that. Drive carefully. Make sure she gets there in one piece. Not me you have to worry about, boss. Caramarin loaded their bags. He smiled at ex-Miss Ukraine but she ignored him. Like he didn't exist. Just the driver as far as she was concerned. Swung up behind the wheel. Marescu had paired him with VCR this time. No sense provoking him further by putting him with Placid or Oilfield. The long night drive to Constanta went smoothly. Even the customs inspection at Ismail was briefer than usual. Caramarin suspected more money had changed hands. Arrived at the lockup on time and the well-dressed woman and younger man took charge of the half-asleep women and showed them inside. Easy money, said VCR. A drive in the country and a nice bonus. Do that again. Yeah, grunted Caramarin. If you closed your mind to what was almost certainly going on. Halfway back to the border, Caramarin took a call on his cell. Marescu. And not in a good mood. Get M back. The wire transfer's not come through. How am I gonna do that, boss? Didn't take a shooter through the border, did I? Well, do your best. Those bitches cost me a shitload of money, I'll sort you out a bonus, okay. Caramarin sighed and swung the bus around. He shook VCR awake and explained. It was past dawn by the time they returned to the lockup. In the cold light of early morning, the place looked even grimmer and more run down than it did by night. A few down and outs sprawled in doorways and stray dogs nosed through ugh piles of garbage. Caramarin swung down and knocked on the rusting metal door. No response. He hammered on the door, rattling it in its frame. Eventually, the young man opened it a fraction. That was all the opening he needed. Caramarin booted the door wide, hurling the young man back into the dark interior. "Where's the girls?" shouted Caramarin. "Gone. Halfway to Austria by now." "Why?" "My boss says he hasn't been paid." The young man dusted down his jeans. He spread his arms wide. "Sorry, that's nothing to do with me, mate. I just send them on to the west." "Well, get them back then." "Sorry, I can't. They're all going separately. I don't have no numbers for them." Caramarin looked into the young man's eyes. Felt sure he was lying. He raised his fist. "Look, you piece of shit. My boss hasn't been paid. Money, now. I haven't got any. I think it's all done electronically anyway." Caramarin shoved past the lad and looked through the back rooms of the lock. Up. A stinking squat toilet, a grubby kitchen with a kettle and some packets of dried food and a loaf, a small office with two scarred metal desks pushed together and a Gurla calendar on the wall. Caramarin looked through the desk drawers. Most were empty, one contained bits of junk like cable ties and plastic bags. And that was it. Unless they had a hidden safe or something. The place was obviously just a pit stop on the girl's route. He turned back to the young man who had followed him into the office. "Give me your phone," he ordered. The young man handed his cell over. Caramarin scrolled through its index. All the data had been wiped. The young man shrugged. "Sorry, had to do it." Caramarin raised his fist. Then lowered it. Just felt too exhausted without snow racing through his bloodstream. "Yeah, I suppose you did." What would be gained by beating him up? Nothing as far as he could see. Maresca could take the hit, not the young man who was also a pawn in the game. Piece of advice: get into another line of business. There's people out there who'd kill you without thinking about it. You're lucky I'm not one of them. He pushed past the handsome young man and out into the bright sunshine. VCR was leaning against the minibus, lobbing cigarettes at the nearby vagrants to make them dance. "Boss won't be happy," said VCR after Caramarin had explained. Not looking forward to calling him. No, Maresca wasn't happy but called them back to Odessa. VCR mostly drove whilst Caramarin napped on the back seat. Chapter 26. Wednesday, September 2, 2300 hours. That evening, Marescu, Caramarin, Litovchenko, Oilfield, and VCR sat around a table on Primorsky Boulevard. The evening sun filtering through the leaves fell on the crisp white tablecloth and sparkling glasses. Looking around, Caramarin felt the contrast between the beautiful people walking arm in arm between the sun-warmed classical buildings and what Marescu was saying. But at the end of the road a parked Ferrari proved Marescu wasn't the only big shot in the city. "You've heard what happened? That fucking Abkhazian shafted us. The wire transfer never come through and now he's got his phone off. Want us to go pay him a visit later." "A visit, boss? You know what I mean. I've fixed up alibis if we need 'em. With the whores in the massage parlor." "Sort of. I've paid for a couple of militia officers to be there, so there'll be no comeback." The food arrived and the men fell to. Caramarin enjoyed the meal, felt like he hadn't had a proper meal for ages but wasn't looking forward to later. Had a few Zibbert lights but took it easy on the vodka. Night fell, but the number of people promenading along the boulevard and up and down the Potemkin stairs had not gone down. Can't beat Odessa for nightlife. Marescu pushed his chair back. Let's go. The others stood and made their way to their cars. Caramarin swung into Marescu's Merc and turned the key. The powerful engine growled into life. You sure about this, boss? Couldn't it have just been a mistake? What do you think? Marescu replied. No, his boss was probably right. It made sense. Let a few little deals go through and then shaft him on the big one. And Marescu hadn't reached his level by letting things go. Especially when some Abkhazian tow-rag thought he could rip him off. They drove south, the city gradually becoming scruffier and more run down. No tourists came this way. They pulled up outside Timur Ozgun's warehouse. Placid popped the boot of his Merc and they drew out guns. Placid took a folding stock AK-47 assault rifle. Caramarin took his favorite CZ-75 pistol. Marescu tried his cell again, but after a few rings it went to voicemail. He shook his head and pointed to the warehouse door. Caramarin hammered on the door. Seemed to be spending a lot of time trying to beat in warehouse doors lately. Paused. Nothing. Hammered on it fit to burst. He looked at Marescu. No reply, boss. Think we've worked that out, you stupid cunt. Easy, Dimitro, said Marescu. Okay, shoot the lock off. Caramarin gestured to the others to step back in case of ricochet, then let Placid empty half a magazine from the Kalash into the lock. In the quiet street, the noise was deafeningly loud. No way could anyone nearby think that was a backfiring car. Cordite smoke swirled until the breeze blew it away. Placid booted the metal door. Open. It swung open then crashed back into place again. Inside, the warehouse was empty. Just one great empty space. The fluorescents showed a few oil stains on the painted concrete floor and recent scratch marks and tire tracks. Startled by the noise and sudden lights, a few pigeons flew about the roof space. At the back was the usual offices and toilet. No one here, but for what it's worth, search those rooms, said Marescu. Lighting up. Caramarin and VCR walked to the back. A metallic smell grew stronger. To his credit, VCR turned his head away before he was violently sick. The stench of blood and faces was like hitting a wall with your face. Caramarin felt his meal rising up his gullet, burning his throat before he was able to force it down. In the office, in several parts, was the mutilated body of a woman. Her head had been placed on the desk, some internal organs in a bloody heap in front of it. Her arms and legs were piled in a corner. Her torso had been split down the middle, possibly with a chainsaw, and the ribs pulled apart like a grotesque parody of a rack of ribs at a barbecue. White bone showed through the red gore. Blood covered the walls in horrible fans and sprays and puddled on the wall. Looking down, the blood was only starting to coagulate. This atrocity must be recent. Caramarin hoped death had found her quickly. Marescu and Placid had wandered over, hands in pockets. Bit over the top, said Placid. There was a note of admiration in his voice. Caramarin turned to him. Opened his mouth. Closed it again. I can hear sirens, called Oilfield from the warehouse door. Coming this way, I think. Fuck, 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 swore Placid. Too obvious now. A bunch of gangsters with shooters and a Kalash with a butchered girl. They'd throw away the key. And that was if they were lucky. Out, now! Shouted Marescu. No idea who was first out the door. Caramarin fired up the Mercedes and was halfway down the street, doors flapping wildly before he had time to draw breath. Fucking close call that, Boss, he dropped the car into third, slalomed the Merc around the industrial estate. Back into fourth when he reached the highway. Placid followed a few meters behind. Hope your alibis are still good after this. Better had be. Fucking hell, they'll cost more than enough. And I'm a bit skint. At the moment. Came out on the highway just above Promislova Street. Slowed down and merged with the traffic. A line of militia squad cars hurtled down the highway. His heart skipped a couple of beats, but they sped past and swung into the industrial estate. A few minutes later an ambulance blew past, sirens and lights drilling into his head. Where to, boss? Drop us at the office, okay. I've some calls to make. Then get yourself off the streets. Chapter 27. Thursday, September 2, 2401. Prostor Radio 102.5 FM. Midnight News. News just in. Militia sources have confirmed that a young woman's body has been found in a warehouse near Leningradsky Highway. Rumors that the woman was tortured and mutilated have not been confirmed, nor has her identity been released. Until next of kin have been notified. However, the initial investigation by the militia leads them to believe there is a gangland connection and are pursuing all possible leads at this time. In another disappointing night for Chernomorets Odessa FC. Caramarin switched off the radio. He held his head in his hands. If he had any left, he'd get drunk. There was a pounding on his apartment door. Wearily he stood to answer it. No prizes for guessing who was on the other side. He stood. Come on in, officers. The two burly uniformed militia officers shoved past him into the small apartment and looked around. One flashed his warrant card, not that he needed to. His friend, Sergeant Grojek. Grojek placed a hand on his chest and pushed him down onto his sofa, whilst the other opened drawers and dropped his stuff onto the floor. Walked all over it? Not that he had much. Caramarin didn't say anything. Just sat with a slight smile and tried to look non-threatening. What's it about, officers? He asked. We'll tell you when we're good and ready, you Romanian dirtbag, said Grojek. Didn't take them too long to go through his little apartment. They didn't find his emergency stash. But they'd have to take the place to pieces before they found that. Where were you tonight? Knew this was coming. Ate at Havana's up on Primorsky Boulevard. I was with Eugen Marescu, Dmitro Litovchenko, Sarai Bilikin, a couple of others. Fine upstanding citizens, all. He's a respected businessman. I know he's friends with a number of senior officers in the militia. Don't try to be funny. We know who you mean. When did you finish eating? Then what did you get up to? Said Grojek. Finished about 9:15. Then we all went over to Mariana's massage over on Mala Arnautska for a massage. And I'm sure those whores, sorry, highly trained masseuses, will verify that. Will they? Said Grojek. Sure, go and ask them. I was seen by a girl called Yulia. She's very good at a deep muscle massage. You should try her. Don't try to be funny. You left when? Said the second officer. Maybe 11:30 or so. Then Eugen Marescu dropped me off here about midnight. And I've been here ever since. By the way, I think I saw a couple of your guys at Mariana's. Can't be sure of their names, but I'm sure I've seen 'em before. Anyone saw you come home? My landlady. She was still up. I saw her watching television. We'll check all that. If you're lying, you can put your head between your legs and kiss your ass goodbye. Grojek said. So you've never been anywhere near the industrial estate off Leningradsky Highway, then. This about that dead girl? He said incredulously. We'll ask the questions. No, like I say, had dinner, a massage and then come home. That's all. So, if I said Marescu's Mercedes was seen coming out of Promislova Street, then I'd say whoever saw it must be mistaken. We were nowhere near there. Sergeant Grodzic grabbed Caramarin by the lapels and dragged him upright. He shoved his face within centimeters of Caramarin's and shouted. Listen, you Romanian dirtbag. Some poor girl was brutally killed this evening. I know Marescu and his shitty little gang is involved. I know that bastard's into people trafficking now. What was it? She wouldn't do as she was told? You all fancied a gangbang and she objected? Wanted to send a message to the others? Or are you all just psycho nutters? I wasn't anywhere near the warehouse. Sergeant Grodzic shouted him down with a cry of triumph. Who said anything about a warehouse, dirtbag? It was on the radio. Honest, that's all I know. We found footprints in the blood. Let's see your boots, dirtbag. Oh shit, thought Caramarin. He took off his boots and handed them up. The two officers looked at each other and shook their heads, then dropped them. I've half a mind to take you in for further questioning, anyway. But I'm gonna check out your laughable alibis, and if anything doesn't check out, we're coming back. Grodzic said. Yeah, don't go anywhere without informing us. Oh, by the way, have this on account. Suddenly Grodzic slammed his knee up into Caramarin's crotch. Red-white fire filled his body. He doubled over and collapsed to the floor in agony. You filthy pervert, said the other. Caramarin looked up from the floorboards. Nothing to do with me, he managed to gasp out. There's more where that come from, 'cause I know you're involved in this clusterfuck somehow. When I get the proof, you're gonna be a senile old man by the time you get out. A very old man with an arsehole the size of a bus, said the other. Listen, Grodzic said more quietly. I'm getting fed up coming to this shithole. I'm coming for you. Unless you do us all a favor and fuck off back to Romania. Am I coming through loud and clear? They had another look round before leaving. As their footsteps clattered down the outside stairs, Caramarin breathed a sigh of relief. Hauled himself onto his sofa, clutching his aching nuts. Just as well he hadn't accidentally stepped in any of the blood splashed around, or he'd be in for several beatings down at the station. He'd put his clothes in the wash to rid them of any fibers or DNA when he'd got back, but he'd forgotten his boots. A stupid mistake. Chapter 28. Friday, September 3, 9:30. Marescu sat in his office, his chair swiveled to face the window. The sounds of traffic filtered up from below. Caramarin waited until his boss had finished on his cell. He closed the call. I think we should go easy for a bit, boss, said Caramarin. The militia suspect we're involved with that girl's death and they're gonna be watching us for a while. You losing your nerve, Nicolae? You going soft on me? Not at all. But we had a good thing going before we got involved with this Abkhazian crew and people smuggling. You remember I said no good would come of it? I'm not letting this go, Kappas. That bastard tried to drop us in it. He wants war, he can have it. That wise. Like I say, the militia are gonna be all over us. Cost me a bit in bribes. Trouble is, got a bit of a cash flow problem now. But the people smuggling is way too lucrative to let go. In a way, that bastard Ozgan did us a favor, opening my eyes to the possibilities. I don't like it, boss. Marescu stubbed out his cig, then lit up another. Carried on like Caramarin. Hadn't spoken. I just need to build up my own contacts in the East, arrange for them to send us some likely girls. Then we're sorted. Easy money. But in the meantime, let's take the war to Uzgan and his Abkhazians. I know. You're tired. Look, here's a bit of money, why don't you take the rest of the day off? I'll catch you tomorrow. As Caramarin left, he heard Mareska calling Litovchenko. There was a man who was always up for violence whatever the reason. Or without any reason. As he crossed the hot car park to his Opel Combo, Caramarin was deep in thought. Only one possible way he could think of to stop this shitstorm blowing up in all their faces. And that was doubtful. He dialed Natalia and asked her to meet him in town. Caramarin stopped by his apartment in Moldavanka and changed into his suit. Splashed on some cologne, then headed uptown. He bought some flowers and gave them to his old landlady as thanks for her alibi and any hassle she'd had from Sergeant Grojek. He waited for Natalia in a rear banquette of a chic restaurant just off Primorsky Boulevard. Heard the place was going for a Michelin star. The dark, paneled back room was mostly empty, nearly all the lunchtime customers were out on the street-side tables enjoying the sunshine and fresh air. Not his sort of place, but it was discreet and out of the way. Checked his cell for messages and read the local paper. Chernomorets Odessa. F.C.'s latest defeat took up the back pages. The front pages were dominated by the mutilated girl's discovery last night. Photos of the warehouse and one very pixelated image of the crime scene. No name had yet been released, but a gangland connection was mentioned. There was speculation about a feud between gangs. No prizes for guessing where that information had come from. He turned to the editorial. The usual demands. For the militia to clamp down on the gangsters ruining the city and that the crime rate was out of control. He tucked the paper away as Natalia came in. It was like she brought the sunshine in with her. The light from the doorway shone off her blonde hair and lit up her short, white Versace dress. It was like a candle in the dim light. She lifted up her shades and smiled, then dropped them in her clutch bag. The waiters stopped what they were doing and stared. The manager stepped up and showed her over to Caramarin's table. The man was either a chutney ferret, or just very well trained. He didn't look once down her front. Unlike every man she passed. Caramarin stood and kissed her on the cheeks. The manager tucked in her chair and passed over her napkin. Caramarin ordered wine and looked over the menu. He ordered mussels in garlic to start. Natalia raised her eyebrows. Garlic? Bit of a passion killer, she said. Sorry. Didn't think. But to be honest, passion's not on my mind, at the moment. I dressed up special for you. Look. She wriggled her boobs at him. You look gorgeous. Appreciate it. But I need to speak to you. You could try and show more enthusiasm, she pouted. They ate their mussels. He could feel her eyes burning questions at him. He waited until there was nobody in earshot. Listen, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but you need to have a word with Eugen. Why? She asked. I can't leave him for you. At least not until after he trades me in for a younger model. She smiled sadly. No, not that, he stammered. He's looking to start a gang war, the way he's going. The militia guess he's involved in people smuggling now, so if he starts anything, there's going to be a lot of heat coming his way. She shrugged. Caramarin was never sure just how much Natalia knew, or suspected, about her husband's activities. Maybe she just grabbed the good things in life without worrying about where they came from. But the woman wasn't stupid. If he had any chance of heading off Mărescu, he had to lay everything out for her. Did he say anything to you about the girl's body last night? No. What body? Keep your voice down, he whispered. The trolley with the main course came. The chef opened the silver dome on the trolley with a flourish. A rack of lamb with potatoes and raspberry juice. The chef served it, bowed and wheeled the trolley away. The wine waiter poured burgundy into crystal glasses. Caramarin toasted Natalia. When Caramarin was sure nobody was taking notice of them, apart from those furtive glances at Natalia's boobs, he passed her the paper. Sorry, what's last night's game got to do with me? The front page. She read the article, her upper lip curling with horror and disgust, showing her teeth. You saying that Eugen did that? No, I think an Abkhazian gang killed her then tried to frame us with her murder. But Eugen's going to start a war. Fair enough, but not at the moment. And you want me to tell him that? He's not listening to me much anymore. He's more into consulting that psycho, Litovchenko, now. Natalia shuddered. That man gives me the creeps, she said. He should. They ate their lamb. Fully deserved a Michelin star in his opinion. Natalia leaned forward, giving Caramarin a great view of her boobs. Her dress had slipped down slightly, revealing part of her lacy brassiere. Not like you. You give me the shivers. Nice shivers down there. Chapter 29. Friday. September 3, 1430. Caramarin protested but Natalia wasn't listening. She picked up the tab on her gold card. Explained that as far as Eugen was concerned, she was having lunch with one of her girlfriends. She took Caramarin by the arm and led him upstairs. The room was as smart as the restaurant downstairs. Summer light flooded in from the balcony windows. Natalia closed the blinds then kicked off her slingbacks. She turned around. Help me with this, she asked over her shoulder with a toss of her hair. Caramarin unzipped her Versace dress and shrugged it off her shoulders. Natalia let it slip down her body. It pooled on the floor and she stepped out of it. Had to admit, the woman looked gorgeous. She ran her hands down her body and gave a sexy little wiggle. Caramarin took off his jacket and slung it over the armchair. He kicked off his shoes and sat on the end of the bed. Natalia crossed to the minibar and bent over, deliberately showing her tanned bottom through the lacy panties. He could just see the slight bulge of her mound. Zibbert light, if they've got it, he asked. He heard the crack and hiss then Natalia passed him a beer. He took a long swallow. Needed that, he said. Natalia came over with the vodka and put it on the side table. She stretched out on the bed arching her back, showing her body in its lacy underwear to perfection. She leaned up, untied her hair and spread it out over the pillow like a halo. She looked at Caramarin who was still sitting there holding his lager. Come over here, she said. Caramarin lay down next to her. With practiced hands, she unbuckled his belt, unzipped his flies and pulled down his trousers. She knelt on the bed then unbuttoned his shirt and helped him take it off. Natalia kissed his chest, nibbled his nipples. Finally, she hooked her fingers into his boxers and tugged them down. Is that the best you can do? She asked. I'm sorry. Natalia took his musket in her hands and primed it to half-cock. But no way. Was it ready to fire any love bullets? You all right, Nick you? Fine. She stopped loading his musket. I know just the trick, Natalia said. She opened her clutch bag and returned to the bed holding a couple of things. She lay back down and poured sparkling white powder into her navel. She handed Caramarin a violet 50 hryvnia note. A Hrushevsky? Times must be tough, he said. Last time it was a 200 Ukrainka. Caramarin knelt over her outstretched body and snorted up the coke. The rush hit him almost at once. Wow. That's good. He rocked back on his heels. So it should be. It's the best you can get. Special reserve. Now come here, big boy. She sprinkled more powder over his musket, moved down the bed, then took him in her mouth. Caramarin lay back as the familiar pressure built up along his barrel. But he still wasn't ready to fire his load. After a while, Natalia sat back. She couldn't find his trigger. Gave up cocking the gun when there was no powder in the pen. What is it? Caramarin thought. Be honest. I'm sorry. Like you saw in the paper, last night I saw the body of a girl, a young woman. She'd been raped and killed. There was blood everywhere. I guess it's affected me more than I thought. He wiped his eyes at the memory. Natalia looked him full in the eyes. You know what, Nicolae, in a way I'm glad. Despite all you've done, you've still got a heart in there. Eugen never said anything last night. He just came home, had a few drinks and then had at me. Natalia looked sad. He was rough. Seemed to enjoy it more than he has for ages. Caramarin didn't know what to say. He rolled over and faced the wall. Natalia snuggled up against his back and draped her arm over his body. All of a sudden he was crying. The sobs racked his body. Natalia let the agony flood out of him, just held him, supported him, comforted him. Eventually, his hurt quieted, his body stilled. He turned to her. Thank you, was all he said. Nicolae. Deep down, you're a good man. But I've been thinking about what you've said. The only question is, what are you going to do? I don't know. But I can't go on for much longer. And please tell Eugen to cool it. I will, Natalia said. But whether he'll listen. Do your best, anyway. It's important. He stood up and dressed without looking at Natalia. He patted his suit down. Checking everything was there. Sorry about that, he muttered. I'll see you soon if you want. Of course I still want to see you, Nicolae. I love you. Caramarin let himself out and down through the hotel lobby and into the late afternoon sunshine. Adjusted his shades and walked along the street, looking at the smartly dressed young couples walking together arm in arm. Did they have his problems? Probably not. When had his life been so simple? Not for a long time. Chapter 30. Tuesday, September 29, 2015. If Caramarin had been listening in whilst Maresca was on his cell, he would have been very frightened. Maresca was sitting with his feet up on his desk in his office on Prokhorovska Street. The office was in darkness except for a circle of light from the desk lamp and the dull red glow from a cigarette. He didn't recognize the number on the screen. But only a handful of people knew his cell number. He jabbed the green button. Yes. His feet slammed onto the floor when he heard the voice on the other end. He jerked upright. Major Balashov. Maresca licked his lips. During the conversation, Balashov told him several things. Some things he didn't know. Things that blew apart his world like a stick of Semtex. Then Major Balashov told Maresca what he wanted Maresca to do. And Maresca agreed. Maresca waited until Major Balashov finished the call before he closed the smartphone. He breathed deeply, then pulled open a desk drawer and poured himself a slug of vodka and lit a fresh smoke. He inhaled deeply and tried to control his rage. Yes, and his fear, too. The smoke added to the blue haze. Less than a minute later, his phone beeped with an incoming message. The gang boss stabbed the button and looked at the pictures on his screen. He flicked through them all, scrolling faster and faster with each one. Some were grainy and out of focus. Some may have been taken with a long lens. But all were clear. Enough to leave no room for doubt. For a moment, he wondered if these images were genuine. Bit beyond his skills, but he knew you could do almost anything with computers these days. But, no. He had little doubt. If they were fake, Balashov would have made them clearer and... Anyway, it all tied in with some niggles at the back of his mind. Maresca drank some more and then went through the pictures more slowly. They all showed that fucking swarthy bastard Caramarin with Natalia kissing in that new blue BMW M5 he'd bought her. And not a peck on the cheek. A clearer one of Caramarin leaning over her recliner by their pool, his hand on her boobs. Another of them sharing lunch together at some restaurant, her breasts overflowing a low-cut dress. Yet another by the pool, that bastard rubbing tanning lotion into her buttocks. Another beep from the phone. This time an icon for an incoming video. Maresca drank more vodka and lit yet another smoke. He touched the icon and waited for it to play. Far, far worse. Beyond the pale. Totally clear, no margin for error or the benefit of the doubt. A hotel room, a bed, a man he trusted shagging his wife. No sound, but you needed no sound for what he was watching. He flung the vodka glass across the room where it shattered. He called the number the images had come from. "I'll do it," he said, choked. "I'll do as you say and stop fighting with the Abkhazians if that's what you want." "Good, it is. I'll let you decide how you deal with Caramarin. Don't call this number again." The connection was cut. Maresca sat back. Rage surged through him. He smoked furiously. When he felt he could speak, he made a call to Dmitro Litovchenko. A man with the most inappropriate nickname, Placid. A man who also really hated that backstabbing piece of shit Caramarin. Chapter 31. Tuesday, October 6, 1 o'clock. After seeing Belgian at the Scorpio Club on Arcadia Beach, Caramarin drove back north to Vidanov's office just off Primorska Street. Could do with a few answers. He pulled up at the far end of the parking lot in the deepest shadows he could find. Fortunately, the night wasn't cold. He pulled his combat jacket around him and settled down to watch and wait and see if there was any activity at the accountant's. After an hour, he still could see no lights or movements. He slipped out of Vidanov's murk and, keeping to the shadows and using what cover he could, he sneaked up to the office. No sounds, no nothing from inside. Only the never-ending noise of traffic from Primorska Street. He peered through the office blinds. Couldn't see much but felt happy with the situation. He didn't have that prickle from his sixth sense, that strange feeling you get when something is wrong. He trusted that sense as much as he trusted his other five. He crouched by the door away from the frame and unlocked it. Grasped the handle and threw it open, being careful not to expose his silhouette to any gunfire. From within, none came. A glance showed that the only occupants were still strapped to their chairs. Vidanov had toppled over, obviously trying to free himself. The heavy weight was still slumped. Caramarin had hit him harder than he'd thought. Glass jaw, he thought. No wonder he'd never made it big time. Just a fairground bruiser. Caramarin shut the door behind him and flicked on the light. Vidanov blinked and squinted in the sudden brilliance. Even the thug stirred and muttered something. Caramarin sat Vidanov up. He ripped off the gag, and whilst Vidanov was swearing, he fetched him a cup of water from the cooler. Answers, comrade. And get them right first time. I don't want to have to use this. He showed the accountant his combat knife. If possible, the man went even paler than before. Right. First things first. Where's the girls' passports? Second drawer on the right. In the orange folder. Good man, said Caramarin, fetching them out. This may surprise you, but Marescu never told me who you work for. I thought it was gonna be a straightforward deal, so I didn't need to know. Who? The accountant trembled. His eyes watered, looked like he was going to cry. Please, don't tell anyone you got it from me. Please. At least he wasn't wasting time pretending he wasn't going to tell. Well, I already figured you're not working for a bunch of nuns. Come on. Comrade. Even then, Vidunov seemed reluctant to tell. He watched Caramarin playing with the point of his knife. Don't tell. I've got a family, you know. Okay. He sighed. I suppose I could find out on the streets, so it won't have come from you. Even in the privacy of his own office, Vidunov's voice sunk to a whisper. Maybe he was worried if his heavy weight wasn't as out of it as he seemed. Major Balashov. This information literally rocked Caramarin back on his heels. Of all the gang bosses he'd expected Vidunov to name, he'd never thought he would come out with Major Balashov. Knew of him but thought he was currently expanding internationally, well beyond Ukraine's borders. Didn't know he was still into sex workers from Odessa. Thought he was frying much bigger fish by now. This put a different face on things. So far in Odessa, Caramarin had not personally come up against Major Balashov. Guessed he was too small fry for that. Knew of him by reputation, of course, and had, occasionally, seen him out on the streets. But passing off a kilo of baking powder and taking those two girls without paying would put him dead center of his radar. Didn't think it would do any good but had to try anyway. Listen, comrade, I didn't know the brown was fake. I don't know why Marescu did that to us, but I had nothing to do with it. I'm gonna find out, though. Look, do me a favor and tell Major Balashov I'm good. Maybe the accountant had recovered a bit of his courage, sensing the fear in Caramarin's voice. Give us the girl back. Obviously he didn't know Caramarin had found Yulia in the trunk, and maybe he'll just break your limbs. Kiss my arse. Caramarin pushed the accountant back over onto his face and left. He was in deep trouble. Only question was how he was going to keep alive long enough to deal with it. Drove back to Bodina's place in his beat-up combo. Thinking all the time. Major Balashov. The Cossack fiend they'd called him. His evil reputation went before him. He must be in his 50s now, but still acted with the ruthlessness of a young gangster rising through the ranks with everything to prove. Caramarin knew the fiend used to be in the Spetsnaz, the old Soviet special forces. He already had a taste for violence, but his character had hardened in the hellhole of the Afghanistan campaign back in the 80s. His idea of pacification was to slaughter entire villages. No witnesses, no talk. He'd personally killed dozens of men, women, and children and enjoyed torturing anyone he thought might have information. His speciality was the blowtorch and pliers. If he'd stuck to that, he'd have come away with a chest full of gongs, but there were rumors he supplemented his salary with importing Afghan heroin through military channels. He must have greased enough palms, because this carried on for years. He'd been in Yeltsin's first Chechen war back in the early 90s. The atrocities carried on, got worse if possible, but there was less to loot and maybe his backers cut him loose. There'd been talk of a possible court-martial. Major Balashov must have known where the skeletons were buried, in all senses, because nothing came of it? However, he'd had to resign from the army. Caramarin didn't know what Balashov had done next. He'd next shown up with the Serb forces during the Yugoslav wars of the mid-90s. Caramarin had come up against him during the siege of Sarajevo and didn't want to meet him again. Ever again. And now the man would be interested in him. Not good. As far from good as Vladivostok. Chapter 32. Tuesday. October 6, 9 o'clock. The morning dawned brighter than his mood. A half-formed plan was taking shape. Sort of. As with anything, it comes to first things first. No sense trying to get everything done at once because that meant failure. Didn't want to leave them at Bodina's place. Not if Major Balashov was looking for them. He drove the two girls over to the huge outdoors market on the 7-kilometer road. He'd heard it was the largest outdoor market in the whole of Europe. To an outsider, it was a sprawling, chaotic jumble. You could get anything there. He knew some of the right people there, if they were about. Caramarin pulled up in a field of cars. He reached into his pocket and peeled off some notes from his bankroll. Get yourselves some clothes and shoes and toiletries and whatever other stuff you need. Is that enough? Like I said earlier, I think it's best if you two get out of Odessa. He pointed out a coffee shop at the end of a line of nearby shipping containers. I'll meet you there in 2 hours, okay? Caramarin watched the two girls head off to a container full of clothes. There were thousands of people at the market and that was just the part he could see. He thought there was little chance of the militia or Balashov's men picking them up. They were just three faces in a crowd of thousands and thousands. That said, he wrapped his black and white keffiyeh about his lower face and kept to where there were plenty of people. There seemed to be people from all over the world at the market. Were more Afghans, Africans, and Chinese than there used to be, which added to the flavor and diversity of the place. He grabbed some rolls to eat and searched for a man he knew. Caramarin hadn't heard he was out of business, so hoped he was still around. In another container, he found the printers. A stack of letterheads awaited collection. A few boxes of gaudy flyers for a nightclub stood on a table, rolls of posters stacked next to a photocopier. Hey, Hetsko, he called. A tall, thin, stooped man straightened up, adjusted his glasses and stubbed out his smoke. Nicolae. Thought you'd be calling round soon. You heard? Heard that idiot Marescu is in the shit. Don't let him drag you down with him, mate. I won't. Bit late for that, he thought. He had need a big favor. Couple of passports for a couple of girls if you can do them. The printer raised his eyebrows. Course, I can. Only question is how quickly. Do you want them? Yesterday. In that case, won't be genuine ones. Not enough time to do the complex biometric stuff. Wouldn't get you into the US or the EU legitimately, but good enough for day-to-day use for round here. Caramarin nodded. That would have to do. I'll need the usual photos and money to oil the machines. Caramarin passed over the girls' internal passports and a large part of his bankroll. They shook hands. He walked back to the car park and, as he thought, there was no shortage of old Opel vans and pickups in various stages of dirt and decay. He looked for one, which he thought the owner would not want to tell the militia when he found the plates had been swapped over. He saw one with beads and Arabic writing on a CD dangling from the rear view mirror. That would do. Glanced around, nobody in sight at the moment. Knelt and quickly unscrewed the plates with the little Swiss Army knife still in his pocket. Then he decided to go find the two girls. He saw Ekaterina outside the coffee shop container. She looked beautiful standing in the sunshine. She'd changed into a sleeveless floral dress and it showed off her toned figure to good effect. She startled when she saw Caramarin. He looked around. Where's the other one? Where's Yulia? I don't know. I lost her in the crowds. She looked frightened. She was out of her depth. He knew the feeling. It's all right. He glanced at his watch. I'm sure she'll be here soon. He bought Ekaterina a coffee and waited. There was no sign of Yulia. I don't want to be here too long, he said. Let's find her. Not easy in a huge, crowded place like 7-kilometer market. Too many people, and he didn't even know what she was wearing now. Keep calm. It was only pure luck that he spotted her. She was behind a container on the edge of the market blowing some Afghan or Tajik guy. Her hands about her punter, pulling him forward into her mouth. He was about to rush forward, then thought. No. He couldn't risk a scene, especially if the militia or Balashev's lot were looking for them. He waited a few minutes until the man zipped up his trousers and left, a look of pleasure on his face like the angels had already shown him the direct way to paradise. Caramarin stepped forward. Yulia looked up. He saw her pinpoint pupils and glazed expression. You want one, too, big boy? He felt like punching her. Instead, he pulled Yulia to her feet. She swayed. He rolled up the sleeve of her blouse. Wasn't surprised to see fresh needle tracks along her veins. Bloody junkie whore. He swore. I'm trying to help you here. Or do you want me to just leave you? Let your friends stick you back in a trunk and rip you apart, gangbanging you and sell you on? That what you want? He was angry, having trouble getting his words out. Ekaterina stepped forward. It's my fault. I should have stayed with her. You're a good man, Nicolae, Bodina told us what you've done. I know you've got in big trouble now. Please help us. Thought about what Vidanov had said last night, this girl was a virgin. She was young enough to be his daughter. Hell. They both were. One a virgin, one a junkie. Both to be sold on around Europe for years and years of living hell as prostitutes. What a fucking lousy world. He felt sickened by what he'd become involved with. He pushed Yulia forward. She nearly fell in the dirt. Ekaterina helped her stay upright and looked at him reproachfully. Give her a break, please. I have done. Kman. Photos next and let's get out of here. Drove them back into Odessa. All of them deep in thought. The only sound in the cab was the hit music station Prostor Radio 102.5 FM. He booked them into a cheap room for the night. Noticed his bankroll was getting very thin now. Gave Ekaterina strict instructions not to let Yulia out of her sight. Not for a minute. She nodded, then leaned up and kissed him on the lips. Unexpected. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We're still deep in the shit. I know. But you're a good man, Nicolae. Thank you. He felt embarrassed. A confusion of emotions boiled in his mind. He hurried away and back into his Opel Combo. Caramarin needed to know whether Mărescu had made a mistake or had set him up. No point asking any of the gang. Needed to hear it direct from the gang head himself. As he drove back through the lunchtime traffic, his cell rang. Natalia. Mărescu. We need to meet. She named a small hotel on Deribasovskaya Street in the center of Odessa where the attached restaurant was small and discreet. He pulled a U-turn in the street, giving the finger to the horns from the other cars and parked a few streets away. bunged a few hryvnias to the maitre d' to take no notice of his attire and sat down in a booth in the back of the dimly lit restaurant. Natalia was already there. She was wearing a cream linen trouser suit and Ray-Bans. Seemed ashamed to be sitting inside but knew neither wanted to be seen together. While he waited for the food, he looked at the old-fashioned portraits of long-forgotten dignitaries hanging on the dark wood paneling. He smiled. What's with the shades? Become a Hollywood star? Maybe I'll tell you later. Look, Nicolae, what's going on? It's not often I've seen Eugen so angry. He had that psycho nutter Dmytro Litovchenko round last night. I'm scared. In a low voice, Caramarin filled her in on what had happened to him whilst they ate. Even she looked terrified when she found out her husband was mixed up with Major Balashov. As he expected, after lunch she took him up to the room she'd rented. He kicked the door shut behind him and took Natalia in his arms. He hugged her close and kissed with passion. Her shades got in his way so he unhooked them. He should have suspected because he saw she had swollen black eyes. Tears flowed from them, leaking out from her swollen lids. Eugen, he said. She nodded. He went berserk last night. Like a madman. She pulled away from Caramarin and stepped out of her trouser suit. Her lacy underwear couldn't hide the purpling bruises and strap marks that seemed to cover her belly and legs. She turned around. Her back was even worse. He really laid into me this time, she wept. He's been bad with me before but never like this. It just went on and on. I thought he'd kill me. Caramarin kissed her and carried her over to the bed. But his desire had gone. He lay down next to her. Does he know? About us, I mean. No, I don't think so. It seemed like he lost his rag over losing some girl and now you've told me having Balashov against him. Did he set me up, do you think? I don't know, but I don't know why he would. Not if he doesn't know about us. And he's never said anything. Caramarin thought. Doubted if Maresca told his wife everything. He certainly wouldn't have told her anything about that poor Kurdish girl at the bottom of the Black Sea. That information would have been like handing her a loaded gun then asking her to pull the trigger. It's all gone wrong, love. She pulled him to her. I've got a really bad feeling now. Oh, help me. I need you now. She unhooked her white bra and tossed it over the side of the bed. She raised her hips and slid down her panties. Caramarin looked at her poor battered body. You sure about this? Honestly. She shook her head. Yes, I need you, you're what I need. But it's all going wrong. She tugged at his jeans and took his penis in her hand. Don't you want me? She asked after a while. Yes, but, I'm sorry. It's seeing you like this. I'll get over it, she said with a tired little smile. She opened her handbag and took out a small bag of powder. She sprinkled some over her vagina and pressed his head down. His tongue found her most sensitive place, lapping in and out, all around, the taste of her natural juices mixing with the salty taste of the cocaine. The drug helping his passion rise, getting harder. She squirmed in ecstasy as he licked her. Before she could climax, he moved up her body, kissing the bruises and wheals. He entered her powdered vagina and took her to orgasm, quickly coming himself, exploding deep inside her, the release draining his stress. Lying worn out, watching the afternoon shadows moving slowly over the walls. He dozed a little, forgetting their problems and pains. He was jerked out of his sleep by the jangle of his ringtone. Marescu himself. He put a finger to Natalia's lips and sat up. What's going on, Maresca demanded. Why haven't you called me so far? I've been thinking. I want to know what you're playing at, what's going on. 2. Why did you set me up? I never set you up, you know that. Listen, can't talk now. Come out to the villa. No, not your villa. Meet you at the Red Star at 8. Just you. Not Dmitro Litovchenko or any of the others, said Caramarin. Maresca blustered but agreed. Caramarin broke the connection and turned to Natalia. I'll find out tonight. Are you going back to him? She nodded, slowly. What else have I got? He said he'd never do this to me again. She kissed him. I think I love you, Nicolae, but I can't leave Eugen. He'd kill me. You know he would. She wiped her swollen eyes and tried to smile. What a messed up world. Caramarin got dressed. He tucked his shirt into his jeans as he stood. He still had no real idea whether he'd been set up or if Marescu had just messed up. Felt sure that Natalia was not in on it, so he trusted her as much as he trusted anyone. I'm going to sort this balls up out. And he's not going to knock you about no more. Good luck. You'll need it, said Natalia. They chopped and shared a few fat lines together before he left. More than enough to give him a boost for the evening. Took him high enough to feel confident. Again. Chapter 33. Tuesday. October 6, 1900 hours. Before meeting Marescu, he swung by the Centurion Casino. 2 of the doormen were talking outside. He knew them both, they were good lads in a pinch. As he walked up, one shook his head and put his arm out to stop him. No way, Nicolae, tall boy, the larger one, a giant of a man, even taller than Placid said. Why not? You're trouble and you're a mess. I'll do ya a favor, I'll tell Valeria you're here. Just wait over there, okay? Caramarin shrugged, did as he was told. Tallboy spoke into his radio mic. He didn't have long to wait. Valeria came out of the staff entrance and looked as if she was about to hit him. She was so angry. You bastard, she cried. He led her further down the alley, away from the 2 doormen. Why didn't you call? Where've you been? I've been so worried about you. I'm sorry, I've been busy. He took her wrists in his hands before she could strike him. With some woman, you bastard. He opened his mouth. And don't you deny it? You've been doing coke with some slag, haven't you? No, didn't think Natalia was a slag. Why are you bleeding then, you liar? She wrenched a hand away and touched under his nose. Her finger came away bloody. Shit. You're fucked up, Nick, you. She burst into tears. I love you, you know that, but why are you treating me like this? I love you, little Vlad loves you, but you're throwing it all away. He felt at a loss. I'm sorry. I don't want to see you for a bit, don't come back, Nick, you. Sort yourself out and get clean. Like you were. She sobbed and looked up at him, tear-stained. He thought his heart would break. I'm sorry. I've got some shit to sort out. I'll make it up to you, I promise. It felt weak to his ears, but he had too much going through his mind at the same time. You're better than this. A pit boss stepped out of the staff door into the night and beckoned. She followed him in, looking back at Caramarin. Her face sad. She was right. He'd let Valeria down too often. If he survived this crisis, the coke wasn't the only problem in his life he'd have to sort out. The 2 doormen watched as he drove off. One made a call on his cell. Stopped off to clean himself up. The evening traffic from the casino was heavier than usual, and he didn't have time to scope out the red star and see who was there. He saw Marescu's Merc nearby, but that didn't mean anything. The coke confidence was wearing off big time, and he felt nervous, antsy, like his skin was crawling. The bad feeling was back. Caramarin looked into the red star. The windows had been thrown open to catch the evening breeze. The coffee shop was full like he knew it should be. A folk band was setting up on a small stage near the back, tuning up. A happy buzz of people enjoying their evening. Mostly students and a younger crowd, but there were all ages in there. Saw Marescu had got a table to himself. No obvious thugs or heavies in the coffee shop. Pushed open the door, stepped into the steamy atmosphere. Sat down, ordered an Americano. If possible, Marescu looked even worse than usual. His jowly face glistened with sweat and his eyes were bloodshot and weary. He hadn't shaved and his grey stubble made him look older. Neither offered to shake hands. "You set me up?" asked Caramarin. "No. I had no idea the brown was phony. Think I want to upset Major Balashov?" "No, I guess you don't. But the amount of gear you take, you must have known." "Didn't test it, did I? Also, my supplier never let me down before. Anyway, I'm like you. I don't touch heroin." Caramarin couldn't tell if the other man was lying. Marescu always looked shifty and furtive at the best of times. "I'm nothing like you, Marescu. I realize that now." "Where's the girl, Caramarin?" "Balashov wants her back as we didn't pay for her. You need to give her up." "No way." "What are you going to do, then?" "We're both in deep shit now. Give him another couple of kilos of heroin or coke and apologize. I'll take the gear to him myself, if you want. We'll need to go to my warehouse then. I'll be able to sort something then." Marescu smiled. A glimpse of the old days in his smile. No tricks. They finished their coffees and left just as the band was starting up. He followed Marescu over to his Mercedes. Suddenly he heard footsteps running up behind him. Too late, he started to turn round. A weight cracked against his skull, knocking him forward off balance. Red-black fire exploded in his brain. Dazed, he stumbled. Marescu's fist punched into his stomach, expelling his wind, another huge pain in his middle. He fell to the floor. Marescu kicked him hard, twice in the stomach. Caramarin threw up, the last of his lunch vomited on the sidewalk. He was jerked to his feet. Felt a pistol jammed into his ribs. "Hello, cunt." Dmitro Placid Litovchenko. The last man on earth he wanted to see. He knew better than to struggle. Not with a pistol against him and a huge, coked-up psycho thug holding it. Some laughing students passing looked at the three hard men, stopped laughing, unsure what was happening. "Can't take his booze," called Marescu. They went into the coffee shop, only one looked back. Placid pushed Caramarin into the back of the Merc and got in beside him, the pistol never leaving his side. Marescu drove fast through busy streets over to his warehouse on Mala Arnotska Street. Caramarin sat and tried to compose himself. He was in a tight spot. Not for the first time, but any time could be the last. Marescu pulled up in front of the warehouse and opened the gate. It had never looked so dead and deserted as it did now. "Get out, cunt." Still no chance to get away. He was shoved to the warehouse. Marescu flicked on the overhead lights, and in the harsh lights, the two men holding him looked like demons. In the office, Placid pushed him in a chair and bound his hands. "You're fucked, cunt." Caramarin didn't say anything. Just sat there with a tight little smile. Waiting. His turn. Maresco sat down behind his desk and poured out a couple of shots of vodka. Clinked glasses with Placid. He dialed a number on his cell. It was answered. Straight away. I've got the rat here. He paused. Yes, yes, pick him up when you're ready. Yes, I'll make sure you get the genuine product. Thanks. He broke the connection. You fucking rat. Shag my wife. Maresco's face was a mask of hatred. Spittle flew from his mouth, landing on Caramarin's face. I show I'll kill you myself, but Balashov will do a better job. He drew back his fist and punched Caramarin full in the face. His head rocked back, blood flew from his nose. The pain knocked reality out of his mind for a moment. He punched him again, knocking him over. Blood clogged his nose, making it hard to breathe. Placid stepped up, kicked him several times in the head. Hatred filled his voice. As he shouted cunt, 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 over and over again, the noise filling the office as much as the hurt filled Caramarin's head. Stamped on his head, dazing him. Maresco dragged Placid off. Enough. Major Balashov wants him alive. They pulled the chair upright again. Caramarin slumped forward, blood leaking from his nose, down his camo jacket and staining his keffiyeh scarf. His strength of mind came back as his senses gradually recovered. I need a piss, he said thickly. Fucking do it in your pants, cunt. I do, it'll make this office smell worse than it usually does. You want to see Major Balashov in a pissy-smelling office? Fucking fine with me, cunt. You the boss now? Just making sure. Caramarin goaded, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Maresco looked up from his cell. You can handle him. He tries anything, hurt him. But don't kill him. Placid grinned and untied Caramarin and hauled him up. Gave him a shove towards the door and punched him on the back of the head. Mind how you go, cunt, he jeered. Placid pushed Caramarin down the corridor leading to the fire exit. It led past a few more offices and storage cupboards to the toilet, and the thug opened the door. With Caramarin's head. Caramarin stood there, head down, knees bent, blood down his front. Looking weak and vulnerable, smaller than he was. Well, go on then. Have your piss. Do you want to get it out for me then? Would you like that? Hold it in your hand. Litovchenko swore. He turned Caramarin round, cut the cable ties and took a small pistol from his pocket. Before he could cover Caramarin with it, Caramarin slammed himself back into Placid. The speed of his attack took his enemy by surprise. Placid staggered, knocked back against the tiled wall. Caramarin drove his elbow into Placid's stomach, knocking the wind out of him. He turned around. Placid's head was bowed. Caramarin butted him, felt the man's nose break. Blood poured down the big man's front. Placid started to bring his pistol to bear. Using his trained paratrooper reflexes, Caramarin grabbed his wrist and slammed it against the tiles, shards of ceramic falling to the floor. Placid held on like grim death, trying to bring it to bear. At such close quarters, Caramarin could smell the alcohol on the other man's breath. He knew he had to finish this quickly before Maresco got worried. The trouble was, Litovchenko was larger and stronger than him. But the man's muscles were mostly from weightlifting and steroids, not trained fighting muscles like Caramarin's. He brought his knee up into Placid's crotch. Litovchenko made a coughing grunt, a deep animal sound. Taking a huge risk, Caramarin let go of Litovchenko's wrist. He doubled his two fists together and clubbed Litovchenko full in the face, his head smashing back into the tiles, shattering several. Blood now covered the tiles. Litovchenko reflexively dropped his pistol. Caramarin saw it on the floor and punted it away over towards the squat toilet. Caramarin saw Placid's eyes glaze over. Not giving the big man any time to pick up again, he swiftly planted 2 more punches to his head. Litovchenko started to sag forward, like he was going to embrace Caramarin. Caramarin sidestepped and punched Litovchenko on the ear as he fell forward, knocking the doorman sprawling on the urine-stained floor. He kicked the big man several times in the head until he lay still in a puddle of blood. "Cunt," he spat down at the bloody figure before him. He picked up the man's knife and dropped pistol. He saw it was a Checkmate CZ-75 automatic. Small and handy. He stepped out of the toilet and made his way to the fire exit door. "You!" He heard a shout behind him. Mărescu was in the passage. His boss lifted his arm and fired. Caramarin felt the bullet pluck at his sleeve. In the enclosed space the bang deafened him. Caramarin raced forward and knocked down the securing bar of the fire door. Another bullet followed him out, ricocheting off the metal door. Caramarin raced out of the exit and swerved round the side of the building. He dived down a dark alley between the next warehouse and dodged behind a couple of dumpsters, using them as cover. He heard Mărescu following. Another bullet whanged overhead. Caramarin knew you couldn't run and expect to hit anything. This was not like blazing away with a kalash in the forest. He came out onto Mala Arnotska Street and kept running, dodging from shadow to shadow as much as possible. Didn't seem to be much traffic this time of night. He could feel the adrenaline still rushing through his bloodstream. He figured he must be gaining on Mărescu. The man was much older and out of condition. Didn't stop him taking another shot at Caramarin. The shot went wild. He ran on. In a lay-by over the road, a blue Volkswagen Polo was gently rocking. The fat man with a look of pleasure, the woman was kneeling down in the footwell giving head. The look of horror on the middle-aged brass's face as she looked up and saw the bloody mess of Caramarin's face and clothes. She was a second too slow to lock the door before Caramarin yanked it open. The man opened his eyes too late. Looked on with bewilderment as Caramarin grabbed his jacket and threw him out of the car. Caramarin pointed his pistol at the woman. "You too," he said. She scrambled out in disarray, her lipstick smeared over her face. Caramarin snatched her handbag and pushed her away towards her punter. Over the road, he could see Mărescu still following. Caramarin rested his arms on the VW's roof and snapped off a shot. Took a deep breath of night air. The second hit the gang boss. He spun round with a scream and fell to the road. In this light, Caramarin had no idea how badly he'd been hurt. Behind him, the man screamed again. Caramarin jumped into the VW Polo, fired it up and sped away. Behind him, the prostitute screamed gutter curses at him. He aimed the car at Mărescu, but the man rolled away with millimeters to spare. In the rear-view mirror, could see him get to his feet. Caramarin went through the woman's handbag as he drove. Kept the cash and her cell, then tossed it out the window. As he pulled onto Nova Street, past the Spartak Rugby Stadium, he saw another big Mercedes with tinted windows turning into Mala Arnotska Street. Major Balashov. Who else would be driving a big limo round here this time of night? Chapter 34. Tuesday, October 6, 2200 hours. So, now he knew. Mărescu had set him up. There was no going back after tonight. He had to get the girls out of Odessa before they were found and sort out the mess he was in. Also, What worried him was Natalia. He was fond of her, maybe. Even loved her. He dialed her cell several times but the call always diverted straight over to voicemail. Had Marescu hurt her bad or even killed her? He called Hetsko, the forger, and then drove over to the girl's apartment block and leaned on the bell push. He was starting to get used to the look of fear and horror that women gave him. Now when they saw his battered and bloody face and clothes. "Where's Yulia?" "In the bathroom." Caramarin hammered on the door. "Come on. No time to waste." A pause. "I'll break it down if you want." The toilet flushed. Yulia stepped out. He looked and wasn't surprised to see her pupils pinprick small and glazed over. She was wearing a low-cut top and short skirt and a pair of cheap, red heels. "You look like a whore. A cheap street walker. I don't know why I'm bothering." "Please," said Yekaterina. "I'll clean myself up a bit and then let's move out." He sponged the worst of the blood off, then picked up their bag and hurried to the VW Polo. Swung round and through light traffic to Hetsko's place. Hetsko was up and waiting for them. The forger handed Caramarin 2 blue Moldovan passports. Then took most of the rest of Caramarin's cash. Flicking through the pages, Caramarin saw the forger had done a good job with the limited time available to him. As he said, they wouldn't get you into the US. But they would do for now. He nodded his thanks and took them back to the girls. As soon as the Polo had turned the corner, the forger made a few calls on his cell. "What's the use of that? I can't speak Moldovan," said Yulia. "Romanian actually. Don't worry, it's quite easy. I picked it up by the time I was 3. Thanks anyway." "I'm sure you've done your best," said Yekaterina. "There's a lot of Russian speakers in Moldova, you know. Especially in the Transnistria area. Anyway, we're going on to Romania. I know a man, a good man, who'll take care of you and get you on your feet." A grimace of sorrow crossed his features. "He's my brother-in-law." "Well, my ex-brother-in-law really. He works for a church charity and he'll help you." Caramarin fell quiet and wouldn't say anything more. He put on Prostor radio 102.5 FM and listened to the chart hits filling the silence in the car. He filled up the tank with gas at a garage on the outskirts of Odessa and headed southwest along the M15 freeway. Yulia said she needed to use the restroom again, so he asked Yekaterina to keep an eye on her. Back in the car, Yekaterina sat next to him so Yulia could sleep stretched out on the back seat. "It's about 200 kilometers, he told Yekaterina. "You might want to grab some rest as well whilst you can." The little Polo sped through the outer suburbs of Odessa and out into the flat farmland of the country. This time of night, their headlights were often the only points of light to be seen. There were few villages and the farms were sleeping. They passed a number of lorries and tankers on their way to or from Romania or Moldova, but it felt so different from the hustle and bustle of the city. On their left, the expanse of the Dniester estuary opened up, a black emptiness, with very few lights bobbing on it. Caramarin rarely came this way and the depth of darkness and sense of isolation alienated him. He settled down to the drive. Could have done with a little snort just to lift his mood, but best not to. Needed to cut down on it. A long hour later, a beep from the back seat jerked him to full alertness. What the fuck was that? Twisting round in his seat to look at Yulia. Nothing. Who are you texting, you stupid whore? A mate. Yekaterina, get that fucking cell off of her. Yekaterina turned round and held out her hand. Yulia looked like she wanted to throw it out the window, but it was closed. Reluctantly, she handed the phone to Yekaterina. Who's she called? Do you know? Yekaterina looked at the number. Sorry, I don't know her friends. I never saw her before the other day. Well, what's the text say? It's private. Yulia screamed. Don't look. The dim glow of the screen lit up Yekaterina's long, worried face. Oh, no. It says we're going down a freeway to Romania and we're in a blue VW and there's only you with us and you've got us passports. You stupid fucking bitch. What the fuck did you do that for? I'm trying to get you away from all this. Yulia burst into tears. He made me. Who made you? Yevyan. Who the fuck is Yevyan? He felt like leaning over and slapping her hard. My dealer. Your pimp, you mean? And your dealer gave you gear to rat us out? Even though I'm doing you a favor. I didn't ask you to, did I? Yulia screamed over the music. He said he'd sort me out with the big boys if I grossed you up to him. And you believe him? Caramarin was incredulous at what the girl had done. They'll just sell you on again. No they won't. He promised he'd take care of me. Fucking let me go, you cunt. This time Caramarin leaned over and slapped her. Yulia started screaming and hitting the back of his head. Their car swerved over the white lines, the Polo's interior lit up. A blast of a horn. Caramarin hauled the VW back over just in time to avoid an oncoming Audi. The Audi's driver flipped him the finger. Stop it, both of you, screamed Yekaterina, pushing the two away. With the din and his rage, Caramarin thought his head would explode. Caramarin pulled over. He opened the door and dragged Yulia out. He balled his fist. The girl leapt at him, trying to claw his face off. This time he punched her face, knocking her to the edge of a field. He stood over her, looming up in the country dark. She curled up into a ball, expecting a kicking. In the headlights, her skirt had ridden up and he could see her white thighs and panties. She was so vulnerable. His rage ebbed. A truck sped past, washing them in light. The driver either did not see or ignored the scene. You stupid bitch. Go back to your friends and good luck to you. He climbed into the car. Thumped the horn several times to relieve stress. Swearing. Let's go, he said. He pulled away and drove. In the mirror, he saw Yulia give him the finger. Getting used to that now. Chapter 35. Wednesday. October 7, 2430. The flat Bessarabian country was dark under the night sky. Large fields stretched away as far as the eye could see on either side of the freeway. The ventilators brought the smell of manure into the car. He did not mind the stench. Had other things to think about. There was no break to the sameness apart from the rare farmhouse or wood. He turned down the radio when he saw Yekaterina nodding beside him. Almost an hour later, he could feel the tension drain out of his muscles and was just beginning to relax as they neared the small town of Bashtanovka. His good mood vanished immediately when he saw a car rocketing up fast behind them. He put his foot down and the lights dwindled behind the little Polo. But not for long. He overtook a tanker and pulled back in again. A black Mercedes E320 class saloon passed the tanker. Caramarin looked left. He recognized that car. Marescu's. With the tinted windows, he had no idea how many were in the car. It drew up alongside the Polo. The front passenger window lowered. Litovchenko leaned out and fired at their tire. Caramarin was glad to see that Placid looked even worse than he did. He looked pulped. Caramarin stamped on the brake and the Merc shot ahead. The air horn of the following tanker blared behind them. accelerated again and moved into the passing lane, about 50 meters behind the Mercedes. Caramarin leaned out and fired his piece at the saloon to let them know he was not defenseless. Not expecting to, purely by luck, he hit the rear window, shattering it into a net of opaque lines. The big Merc swung over, he threw the Polo back into the inside lane. Caramarin tried to keep directly to the rear of the Merc. Thought directly behind. Marescu's car was the safest. The two cars sped down the freeway, leaving the tanker behind. Tires squealing, engine racing, the Polo's agility helped it swerve from one lane to another, always keeping more or less behind the Mercedes. A boot from the inside of the Mercedes kicked out the shattered rear window. It fell to the road. Caramarin swerved round it. He saw one of the men inside lean out over the trunk and fired off a burst from a Kalash. In the night, the bullets ripped past like tracer rounds. He shouted for Yekaterina to get down. She cowered down in the footwell, making as small a target as possible, covering her head in her hands. Caramarin knew the second rear passenger was just an amateur. He fired one long burst at the Polo. Probably the entire magazine, the Kalash's recoil jerking the weapon upwards, the bullets wasted in the air. Caramarin saw stars from the flashes, blinked to try and get his night vision back. Still too much. One CZ-75 pistol against at least two gangsters with Kalashnikovs. Only one way this could turn out. With him and Yekaterina dead. He decelerated, still swerving across the road, trying to throw off their aim. Behind him, the tanker was getting closer again. Another burst of fire from the Mercedes. A bullet hit the hood, another ripped off a side mirror, tearing it from the car. Caramarin veered in again and let the tanker overtake. He followed immediately. Behind it? A couple of seconds later, the Mercedes was beside him. Litovchenko's window already down and a Kalash resting on the sill. The idiot smiled and said something, but Caramarin was too fast. He stretched across Yekaterina and snapped off a shot into the Mercedes's interior. No idea what happened next. Again, he stamped on the brake, the Mercedes speeding past. Unable to believe his luck, he threw the wheel over. They hurtled down a side road as the tanker and Mercedes sped down the freeway. He snapped off the lights. The road was too uneven with too many potholes for Caramarin to continue at such high speed. He had to slow down. Behind him, he could see the lights from the freeway receding in the distance. The road was better than a farm track, but not by much. Had to slow further. And he strained to see even a few meters ahead of him in the country dark. Hedges hemmed them in on both sides. Yekaterina pulled herself up into her seat. He looked at her. She wasn't crying or screaming as he'd expected. She gave him a small smile. How far have we got to go? About 30 kilometers, more or less. Behind him, a kilometer away, he saw the Mercedes turn onto their road, its headlights searching the night for them. We've got no chance when they catch us. Get out when I say, okay. She nodded. 100 meters further on, in the shadow of a clump of trees, Caramarin saw a gate into a field. He stopped the Polo and pointed. Open that. Yekaterina jumped out and wrestled the gate open. He turned into the plowed field and parked the car behind a hedge. A waterlogged ditch ran along the field side of the hedge. He caught Yekaterina's hand and, stumbling, ran further along the hedge. He threw her down and pressed her to the ground as the Mercedes drove past. On the other side of the hedge. They carried on for a while, crossing into another field. The muddy, furrowed land was hard going, but he forced the pace, looking for a farm or village. Anywhere. He could steal another car. Later than he expected, he saw headlights ahead. As they drew closer, Caramarin saw it was the Mercedes on their back trail. He dragged Ekaterina down into the ditch and covered them with dead leaves and litter. They lay still as the cold mud and slime oozing like slugs penetrated their clothes, and he heard the Mercedes drive slowly back down the road. If Marescu's men were careful, they would eventually spot the Polo man. He helped Ekaterina up and they jogged further into a third field. Over there. He pointed at the skyline where a roof looked over the next hedgerow. He pulled her arm, trying to see what the Mercedes was doing behind them. Panting, Ekaterina was out of breath when they got to the small holding. A run-down cottage, an open barn and a few sheds stood around a filthy yard littered with worn tires and bits of abandoned machinery. A dog barked furiously at them. Caramarin tripped over an empty vodka bottle, dragging the girl down with him, sending other bottles spinning and clinking. On his hands and knees in the mire he saw plenty of empties. He felt just a little safer then. They made their way over to the barn. In the near pitch black inside, he made out a vehicle. An ancient Zaz pickup. Hadn't seen one that shape for ages. Caramarin heft a piece of iron and smashed the driver's window. He felt under the dash and fumbled with the wires. The old engine spluttered and coughed and eventually chugged into life. He swept out the worst of the glass. Get in. He backed into the yard, sending more bottles over the cobbles. With the dog barking fit to burst, there couldn't be any more noise if he tried. So much for stealth. An old man appeared at the farmhouse door. Caramarin waved at him as he drove off. The old pickup was a wreck. Probably hadn't seen a mechanic since the Orange Revolution. The inside was littered with old bottles, sweet wrappers, newspapers, and it stunk of wet dog and manure. A little icon dangled from the mirror. But it went. Maybe it was held together with string and chewing gum, but it still moved. Look, said Ekaterina. A shotgun. She pulled it from its resting place by the passenger door. Some old blunderbuss, probably. See if you can find any shells in this mess. He drove out of the farm and back onto the narrow country road. The immensity of the flat Bessarabian landscape swallowed them up. They could have been the only people for kilometers in any direction. Except he knew that somewhere out there was a Mercedes filled with gangsters armed with Kalashnikovs whose only interest that night was their deaths. Ekaterina turned in her seat. How much further do you reckon now? Not too sure, I've never been down this far before. We must be getting close to the Danube now. They drove several more kilometers. He was relieved that he could not see any headlights in the distance. Keep your eyes open to your right. If we start sinking, we've gone too far. She smiled at his attempt to cheer her up. Could have done with a sat nav, as Caramarin was starting to think he'd taken a wrong turning somewhere in the tangle of country roads and farm tracks. Until Ekaterina clutched his arm and pointed. Over there. He looked. Must have been driving over a slight ridge because he saw the broad, dark gleam of the Danube. The border between Ukraine and Romania. He'd crossed the border dozens of times but never had the river been as welcome as now. Everywhere was dark, like time had not moved on here. The only modern distraction was a set of headlights patrolling the river bank in the distance. Yes. He punched the air and turned towards the river. Then Ekaterina screamed. Hurtling down the road was the Mercedes. Its beam slashed the air, twin searchlights bringing death. Shit. A long salvo from a Kalash caused him to swerve sharply down a cart track. bouncing over a plowed field. He switched off the lights, but this time there was no escaping from the murk. Looking back, he saw Placid lean out and fire a burst. The bullets drilled into the back of the old Zaz pickup. The rear tires blew and he couldn't control the pickup. He aimed it towards the nearest hedgerow and stamped the pedal to the metal. The beat-up old vehicle crashed into a tree and stopped. He flung open the door. Yekaterina followed, bringing the shotgun out. He shouted and pulled Yekaterina into and through the hedge. A branch cut his face and he fell over a root. Regaining his feet, he forced her along in the direction of the river. Looking back as they ran, he saw 3 men jump out of the Mercedes. The driver backed the car around and headed out onto the road. One of the men fired a ragged volley at them, wasting ammo at this range at a moving target with an obstruction between them. He thought quickly as they ran. He had one advantage, one card to play. He was combat trained and they weren't. However, they held all the other cards, including 3 aces. They had 3 kalashes. Beside him, he heard Yekaterina gasping for breath. She was running with one hand pressed to her side. Knew she wasn't hit. If she had been hit by a bullet fired from a kalash, she wouldn't be moving now. She'd be on the floor with her guts spread over several meters of field. It was plain she couldn't go much further at the moment. Came to the edge of the field and another ditch. He saw a concrete culvert or storm drain. He stopped. "Get down," Caramarin hissed. He pushed her head down. She looked up. Trusting him, she passed him the shotgun, lay on her belly and wriggled into the wet drain. "Stay there. I'll be back soon," he promised. Chapter 36. Wednesday, October 7, 2 o'clock. Caramarin threw himself into the ditch. He rubbed mud over his hands and face. Then crouching, made his way through the tangled undergrowth back towards the 3 gangsters. He had to give it to them, they'd seen enough war movies to know not to bunch up together. They were moving in a ragged combat line down the hedgerow. Placid and another man in this field and a third in the field with the pickup. He lay face down in the ditch, with the shotgun under him. He stilled his breathing as much as possible. Flat, shallow breaths only. Above the sound of the vegetation moving in the night breeze, he heard the hunter's footsteps pass above him. Caramarin waited. Not too long, as he couldn't let them reach the culvert. He raised his eyes above the lip of the ditch. All 3 men were between him and the storm drain now. He aimed his shotgun at the lone man and pulled the trigger. The hammer fell uselessly. The click sounded loud in the near silence. He pulled the second trigger. No misfire there. The boom crashed deafeningly on his ears. The man staggered and fell forwards. Dropping the now useless shotgun, Caramarin was up and out of the ditch instantly with a single leap through the gun smoke. He raced the few steps to the fallen man. Diving to the mud, he used the man's body as cover as he snatched up the fallen kalash. Now the odds were a bit better. The prone man writhed. Caramarin didn't think the man had long left. His blast had made a mess of his neck and shoulder. Gore poured onto his suit and to the muddy ground. He could have cared less. 2 bursts from the other field scythed through branches and trees and dug into the muck near him. Caramarin did not waste ammo like the 2 gangsters. He fired a couple of single shots to keep their heads down. He felt through the dying thug's jacket but found no more ammunition. Disappointed but not surprised the amount they had been wasting. Took his bankroll, though. "Hey, cunt, We're still going to fuck you over. He aimed a couple more shots at the voice in the other field. Now placid and the other man knew Caramarin also had a kalash. They seemed reluctant to engage. The dying man spasmed once, twice, then lay still. Not raising himself, using his elbows, Caramarin wriggled on his belly back towards the culvert. A burst of fire slammed into the corpse behind him, rolling it over, jerking into the mud. Caramarin pressed his face to the earth, the dirt working its way into his mouth and nose. He wriggled forward again, getting as far as possible from the shooting. Caramarin thought rapidly, remembering his training from years ago. Didn't want to fire and give away his position with muzzle flashes. Knew that if he moved slowly and carefully in the dark, he didn't think the others would see him. On the other hand, how long could Ekaterina lie in a concrete pipe with gunfire going off? He trusted her, she seemed sensible, but didn't want to leave her too long. Caramarin continued his slow crawl. Breathing silently, through his mouth, his ears straining at every noise. He approached the hedgerow again, higher up than before and nearer to the storm drain. He peered through the branches and undergrowth. He got to his knees, the kalash held out before him, finger resting on the trigger guard. Couldn't see the others anywhere. He pushed further into the hedgerow. Moving slowly, easing the branches aside, ignoring the sudden sting of nettles on his hand, the scratch of bramble thorns snagging his camo jacket. Where were they? He looked back over his shoulder. Shit, they'd separated. One thug must have followed him through the hedge and was now in the field behind him. He was crouched by the body, turning it over. Dunno what he expected to find out there. But where was Litovchenko? A glimpse of white shirt. Oh shit, he was by the culvert itself. Had he heard Ekaterina? Did he know she was there? The good thing was Caramarin now knew where the two men were, but the bad thing was he was between them like the meat in a sandwich about to be eaten. He breathed deep, steadied himself. He pivoted around behind him, breathed out, and on the exhale shot a burst at the thug behind him. The bullets zipped across the field, slamming into the hood, knocking him back several meters, a spray of gore fanning out into the night. If the man screamed, Caramarin didn't hear it above the blast. Instantly, he spun round and fired a burst at Litovchenko. Except he didn't. Fired one, maybe two shots, and then the firing pin fell uselessly. Placid roared out, "Cunt!" Sprang towards Caramarin, firing from the hip like he'd seen far too many Red Army soldiers do in far too many war films. Caramarin hurled himself into the ditch. A root or boulder punched him in the back. A red tide of agony washed over him. He lay back as shredded leaves and branches fell into the ditch around him. Caramarin felt in his pocket for his little CZ-75 pistol. There are no words to describe the ultimate sinking feeling of horror when he couldn't feel the pistol. He groped in the other front pocket. Not there. Another burst of fire above him from the assault rifle. Caramarin started to his feet just as Litovchenko appeared on the lip of the ditch. "There you are, cunt." Placid aimed the kalash straight at his chest. A grin spread over his face. He slowly lowered the assault rifle, dragging the moment out, pointing it at his groin. "The boss would love me to blow your fucking balls off. Funny, didn't know you were that way inclined. Thought you only got it up for little girls." What? A movement behind Litovchenko. The big man started to turn his head and then toppled forward into the ditch. Ekaterina stood on the edge holding a bloody rock. She dropped it and shuddered. Caramarin picked up the kalash and smashed the butt down onto Litovchenko's head. He held up his hand and Yekaterina helped pull him out of the ditch. He clutched her tight and kissed her. Now he felt the CZ-75 tucked into his jeans waistband. Thank you. Her body felt warm and soft and tender after the horror of the last few minutes. She looked up at him. Her eyes were dry, but she must be shocked by what she had just been through. He couldn't let her brood on it. Gave her a little shake. Come on, tough girl. We've still got to get out of here. Not too far to go now. Together, they crossed a road and staggered across the next field in between rows of polytunnels, making their way towards the far line of trees that marked the Danube. They clung to each other for support and comfort. Caramarin was impressed. This was one tough cookie. If she got through the night in one piece, she'd make out all right. The polytunnels were empty now. Empty of crops, but there was still the staging along the sides and stalks and remnants of the harvest scattered about. The breeze rattled the plastic sides and shadows loomed up on all sides. Yekaterina held Caramarin's hand for security as they walked between the tunnels, starting at almost every sudden noise. Behind them, on the road, a splash of headlights and a squeal of brakes. Come on, hurry up, said Caramarin, pulling Yekaterina forward. A burst of automatic fire raked the plastic behind them, shredding it to pieces. There was a shout and another burst. Caramarin dragged Yekaterina into an opening of the tunnel alongside. He threw her to the ground and covered her with his body. He heard running footsteps approach, come closer, and then pass them by. In the near-pitch darkness of the polytunnel, he wasn't surprised the man had missed them. They stood and made their way down the middle of the tunnel, hands stretched out in front of them. Stumbled several times but couldn't get lost in the dark. Not in the middle of a tunnel. Up front, more dark shadows and the dark of not knowing where their enemy might be. That was the worst, the doubt, the uncertainty, the not knowing if a burst from a kalash would rub them out at any time. Maybe the wind shifted direction because now Caramarin could smell the river before them, that flat, vaguely metallic smell. The plastic sides rattled and rustled. But the wind brought voices from up ahead. Couldn't tell what they said. Then the reflected glare of a powerful torch or searchlight darting from side to side. Once again, Caramarin's combat-trained reflexes took over. He flung Yekaterina down. Up front, shouting. Then a burst from a kalash blasting above the rattling of the tunnel. Instantly, a fusillade from several more assault rifles replying to the first. What's going on? Whispered Yekaterina, her voice tickling Caramarin's ear. I dunno, but I reckon our friends playing with the border patrol. A few more shots shattered the night. Then, after a pause, one single shot. That good or bad? Bad for him. No doubt about that. But I don't want em to find us. Especially if he's hurt any of them. They might just gun us down thinkin' we're part of the same gang. They're the sort who shoot first and ask questions later. Come on, girl. Caramarin helped Yekaterina to her feet. We'll try and keep our distance. Fetched out his knife and slashed the side of the polytunnel and led her over to the next tunnel. Cut that side and into the deeper darkness inside. Forgot the staging and fell flat on his face. A section of the shelves fell over with him, knocking plants and irrigation pipes to the floor. The crash sounded very loud in the night. Yekaterina giggled as he picked himself up. She stopped giggling as the powerful torch shone their way. Once again, Caramarin dragged Yekaterina to the earth. The torchlight shone closer, reflecting off the transparent sides of the plastic, breaking up into dozens of different points of light. Caramarin gestured to Yekaterina and they crawled away from the light under the Staging. Heard voices. A shout summoning the rest of the patrol to the cut in the side. Down, he whispered. He peered behind him and saw 1, 2, 3 men enter their polytunnel through the cut. The patrol flashed their torches around and then walked up the center of the tunnel. Within a minute, the men were up to where they were hiding under the staging. If Caramarin had put his arm out, he could have touched their boots as they passed. "We'll never find anyone in these tunnels," Caramarin heard one of the patrol moan as they passed. "Might have been an animal knocked those shelves over, Corp. An animal cut that hole in the sides, did it? I'm telling you there's more fucking smugglers around. Keep your eyes open. And keep careful," said the man in the lead. The patrol passed by, torches swinging from side to side as they continued down the tunnel to the far end. As soon as they were out of sight, Caramarin stood and cut a hole in the opposite side of the tunnel and out. The strain was starting to tell on Ekaterina now and she was shivering. Whether with cold or fear he didn't know. Caramarin cut his way through the next 2 polytunnels, going more carefully this time, taking care to make as little noise as possible. When he thought he'd put enough distance between themselves and the border patrol, he headed through the polytunnel in the direction of the river. Couldn't see their torches or anything but didn't want to hang about in case they called up a dog unit or a helicopter with thermal imaging. They pushed through the birch trees and came to the Danube. Caramarin had originally intended to cross much higher up, nearer the border town of Ismail. He didn't know this area of farmland on the edge of the nature reserve so well. On the far side of the river was Romania, his old homeland. He thought about crossing with her. But Odessa was home now. At this point, the river was about 800 meters across, broad and slow moving. Birch trees lined both banks. In the day it would look beautiful, but at night, he thought the blackness looked sinister. Too many hidden dangers. Apart from a container barge heading upriver, it was deserted. He drew breath. "Think you can swim that?" "I don't know. Perhaps. Look for a float, a branch or a pallet or something to support you." They walked upstream along a footpath. Couldn't help but notice the worried looks she was giving the river. Maybe 100 meters further on she spotted a large white object on the bank. Pulling it out from the mud, Caramarin blessed their stroke of luck. Only litter, but possibly life-saving litter. It was the polystyrene packing off a fridge, freezer or washing machine. "Right," he said, taking a plastic bag from his camo jacket. "Time to go." He dropped her passports and some money into the bottom of the bag. She stripped to her bra and pants and put her clothes and shoes in. Caramarin sealed it. "You've got the numbers I gave you." She nodded. "Why don't you come with me?" "You can't go back there. Those gangsters will kill you. They haven't managed yet. And I've got business to sort out." Also, he couldn't face seeing his brother-in-law. Ekaterina flung her arms around his neck and kissed him. "Thank you. Oh, please come with me." "I can't. Now get going before that patrol comes back." He watched as she pushed the polystyrene float into the Danube and lay on it. She kicked off with her feet and out into the river. The gentle current pulled her downstream. "It's freezing. Keep going and you'll get warm. Good luck and take care." He blew her a kiss, then watched her push off. He was glad she couldn't see the tears in his eyes. Watched for a minute and then made his way back through the fields. Chapter 37. Wednesday, October 7, 8 o'clock. Prostor Radio 102.5 FM breakfast announcements. 8 a.m. And in breaking news, militia have found the bodies of 3 men in fields. By the Danube Delta. They suspect smugglers were interrupted last night. One of the smugglers fired at the militia officers and was killed in crossfire. Fortunately, none of the militia officers was injured. More in our next news flash at 9. And now the weather report. Ivana. Don found Caramarin sitting on the bed of a truck carting a load of sugar beets in the direction of Odessa. Tried eating one, he was that hungry, but it was too woody. He watched the flat landscape unroll beneath him and thought about what he had to do. He jumped off when the truck turned off the highway. Looking as he did, he knew he'd have to walk the rest of the way. Also, he didn't want to answer any questions about the AK-47 shaped object in the sack he was carrying. As the day warmed up, he took off his camo jacket and wrapped the sack in it. Needed money, needed a change of clothes, needed a place to stay. Mostly needed to finish with Mărescu. Money was no problem. Caramarin walked over to the long-distance bus terminal off Bakivska Street, a couple of kilometers out of town. Looking as beat up and worn out as he was, he fitted in with the dossers and alkies hanging around. In a bin, he found an empty vodka bottle. Just what he needed. He slumped in a doorway with the bottle between his knees and a polystyrene cup in front of him. Kept his head down, sat still but watched what was going on. Reminded him of his sniper course from long ago. Concentrated on his breathing. A white coach arrived. A group of Western tourists stepped out and milled around. He could tell they were Western from their expensive hiking clothes. They were only young, maybe on a gap year from university. Couldn't tell from their language where they were from, but that didn't matter. Mixed boys and girls. Ideal. An athletic blonde lad in a plastic Viking helmet was holding up a map and getting in the way of other passengers. They looked confused by all the Cyrillic writing and the Ukrainian announcements over the tannoy. Marvelous. Circling like a jackal was Radu, one of the pickpockets and sneak thieves who hung about the terminal. Liked to prey on foreigners after a long journey. As they were dopey and slow and didn't know how to raise the alarm. He was usually long gone by the time his mark knew they'd been robbed. Caramarin liked to watch an expert at work. Even seeing Caramarin couldn't see how the boy did it, but knew he'd come away with something. His fingers dipped like a flash into the Westerner's pockets. Watched as Radu slipped the gear to a friend and they both melted away. Caramarin was on his feet and followed the two lads out of the terminal and down a rancid alley behind a coffee shop. Had to act quickly before they passed it on. They'd stopped by an overflowing dumpster and had two wallets spread open. "Sorry guys," said Caramarin in Romanian. They jerked their heads up. "Tax time." "Pass it over." "Fuck you, Caramarin." "Yeah, you must be in shit to have to be robbing us." "I'm not argin'. Just give." He smashed the vodka bottle against the side of the dumpster. "Now." The two lads backed off. "Sorry about that. Better luck next time." He stuffed the cash into a pocket. Not as much as he'd like. One of the tourists had obviously heard about Odessa's reputation and had hoped to get lucky, so had put a few condoms in his wallet. Caramarin took them too, then buried the rest of the wallet in the waste. His life had gone downhill. Not long ago, he was eating caviar and riding in a top-of-the-range BMW M5 next to a beautiful woman. Now he was dressed like a down and out and robbing scumbags to survive. But what did it matter? Until he'd sorted Mărescu, his life wasn't going anywhere anyway. He jumped a minibus into town. Bought himself a hold-all for the calash and a fresh combat jacket and jeans. Chapter 38. Wednesday. October 7, 8 o'clock. Treated himself to a shave and a sauna. Also to a hand job off the masseuse. Quick and clinical. Next please. However, he felt like a new man after that. As he got dressed, Tailpipe came in. What are you up to, Caramarin? Marescu's lot are looking all over for you. Thought they were, comrade. I'm here now, aren't I? If he wants me for anything, he's got my number. It was good knowing you, Caramarin. You want my opinion, get out now. Go. Back to Romania. Or Iceland or Australia or somewhere a million miles away. I'm not leaving. Tell him that, comrade. You can tell the old bugger yourself. See you around. Tailpipe pushed past Caramarin into the dim, steamy sauna. The early October sunshine dazzled him. He slipped on his shades and took a cab over to Deribasovskaya Street. Sat out at a table on the tree-lined boulevard and watched the world go by. The pastel buildings looked great in the sun. The smartly dressed young people all looked like they belonged to the in crowd. A people who knew how to enjoy themselves and live life to the max. At times like this, Odessa was the best place to live in the world. He felt tired but wired. Nervous energy fizzed through his bloodstream. Knew it was essential if he was going to live here to show that he wasn't afraid. And he wanted to live here. Ordered the good healthy Ukrainian food he liked for lunch. He dialed Valeria but she wasn't answering. Maybe she was sleeping. Wasn't concerned but when she still wasn't answering an hour later, he felt a clutch of worry around his heart. Paid for lunch and left a decent tip for the pretty young waitress. Then he took a trip out to 7-kilometer Market. Bought ammunition for his Kalash and CZ-75 pistol from a man who charged double the usual rates. Picked up a couple of other items. Had to pay more than he expected and the dealer seemed unwilling to sell. Word about him was definitely getting around. Caramarin dialed Valeria several more times but it always went to voicemail. The worry was turning to fear by the time he got back to Odessa. His cell rang. Wasn't surprised to see Marescu's number on the display. You bastard, Caramarin. And good evening to you, too, comrade. Cut out the funny stuff, shithead. You've cost me a load of money. I know. You went too far with the sex trade stuff, you pervo. I didn't mind doing the money laundering, the protection, the extortion, even the gun running but what you were doing. Listen, Marescu cut in, I'm not fucking interested. There's good money and if a few slags get burned, who cares? Now listen good. Valeria's voice on the cell. They've got me, they've got. The sound of a blow. Yeah, we've got your whore and her lad. They're safe with us now. Don't you dare touch them. Caramarin shouted, making several people nearby turn to look. But one look at the angry man in a camo jacket on a cell and they looked away instantly. We need to meet at the warehouse at 11, Kappas. No way. Not going into that death trap. No, I'll see you on the Potemkin stairs at 6. Nice and open and public. Okay, comrade. I give the orders. Why the fuck should I see a low-life loser like you there? Because I've got a copy of your laptop's hard drive. Remember when you forgot it in your car? Want me to make several copies? Want me to send them on to your friends, the papers, the militia? That what you want? There was a pause at the other end, he could hear a whispered conversation. And you'd better bring Valeria and Vladimir, too, that's if you want the disc. How do I know how many copies you've run off? You don't, Pervo. But if you want to find out, you'll be there. With Valeria. Caramarin closed the call. Now he had to get off the street. Would be too easy for Marescu's thugs to rub him out before he had a chance to get Valeria back. And he needed to settle with Marescu once and for all. No way was the gang boss going to let him get away with screwing his wife. Caramarin took a minibus to Moldavanka. He knew where his landlady hid a spare key under a flower pot, so let himself into her apartment. Knew he had a few hours free because she always went to her social club most afternoons to catch the latest of which of her friends had died or been admitted to hospital. He sat at her kitchen table and methodically stripped down and oiled the Kalash and CZ-75 pistol. Emptied and refilled the magazines. The long-remembered skills kept the fear at bay as he concentrated on the task in hand. He looked up at the clock. Time to go. Slipped the pistol into a pocket and the Kalash into a sporty bag. Then let himself out. He made it to the Potemkin stairs with time to spare. He leaned on the shady side by the statue of the Duc de Richelieu and looked down the stairs. At this time of day, the stairs were full of people coming and going. Tourists peering about them. Locals in a hurry, sharp-suited businessmen on cells, children laughing and playing. No way would Marescu start anything with so many witnesses. Hoped it would be a simple exchange but expected anything to happen. He glanced down at his watch. 6 p.m. exactly. He watched the people walking past. No one he knew, no one he recognized. 10 past. Easy, Marescu may be running late. 20 past. Maybe playing with him, showing him who was boss. Now half past. A vagrant in the tattered remnants of a suit walking past, noticing Caramarin still standing there, put the bite on. Caramarin gave him a handful of change and the dosser shuffled off. Caramarin stretched and walked round the statue. Still no one there. 7 p.m. came and went. Startling him out of his watchfulness, his cell burst into life. He pressed the green button. Still there? I'm changing the meet to 3 a.m. in the morning. Same place. Okay. You want to see your bitch and her boy again, you'll be there. Capus. Let me speak to her. I need to know they're all right. Valeria's voice came over the air. Nicolae. Don't go. Don't. Her voice was cut off. Marescu. Is she all right? Tell me, you bastard, shouted Caramarin. So far. But if you want them back, you'll be at the stairs with my disc at 3. No tricks, you bastard. Marescu cut the call. Marescu and no tricks? Not bloody likely. Caramarin wanted to walk away from this meeting. Didn't want his bloody body rolling down the stairs at 5 minutes past. Chapter 39. Wednesday. October 7, 1930. Caramarin looked around. He picked up his sports bag and walked over to Deribasovskaya Street. In the alleys behind the restaurants, amongst the black bags and dumpsters, he found what he was looking for. The vagrant in the wreck suit, or another very like him, was standing on a box rooting through a bin looking for scraps. The stench of rot made Caramarin gag. Yes, he'd do. Was about the same height and build. Despite his drunken state, the tramp's street survival skills meant he quickly became aware of someone watching him. The man looked down at him. Wach who won? Caramarin held up a 20 hryvnia frankel. Want to earn this? Wach who won, Mr. A blow. Fuck off. Caramarin shrugged off his camo jacket and held it up. Do you want this? Better than what you're wearing. Warmer, too. The derelict stepped down with his hand out. Yeah, Sure, Mr. Caramarin stopped him. I want to swap clothes. Everything. That all right? With you? You're some weird pervo, Mr. No, call me a mysterious benefactor. Wha? The tramp pulled off his jacket and hung it over the edge of the dumpster. He kicked off his shoes and let his trousers fall down. His filthy, sweat-stained shirt and tie was the last to come off. Underneath, his sunken chest was decorated with a prison tattoo even Placid would have admired. The tramp was about to drop his piss-stained boxers before Caramarin stopped him. Not those, comrade. Caramarin emptied his pockets, threw the camo jacket to the vagrant and then undressed. Hoping the dosser didn't have lice or anything infectious, his skin crawling with disgust, Caramarin dressed in the sweaty shirt and beat-up suit. The shoes pinched his feet. Hey, Mr. Were about me money. Caramarin handed over the francle. Hey, you want to earn more? The tramp nodded. You want more, be at the Duc de Richelieu statue at 3 tonight. Got that, comrade? Understand. The tramp peered at him, his eyes goggling with suspicion, confusion and greed. It's okay, comrade. No blowjobs required. 3 this morning. The tramp shuffled out of the alley to buy rot-gut booze. As soon as he left, Caramarin smeared filth from the dumpster over his hands and face and, if possible, dirted up the suit some more. Found half a glass of soured wine at the bottom of a bottle and poured it down his front. Picked up a piece of cardboard and wrote with his left hand, in ill-formed letters, homeless and hungry, please help. Lurching out of the alley and weaving his way down Deribasovskaya Street. Furtively looking around, he was pleased with the looks of disgust the beautiful people gave him. His disguise was working. Weaving his way to Primorska Street. Past the statue of the Duke, still with his hand out cadging for change. Staggering part way down the stairs where he could clearly see the Duke, then sat down with his cardboard sign propped in front of his sports bag together with a polystyrene cup. He tossed in a few kopecks and waited. Slumped down, with his long hair in front of his face, he could see nearly everything going on the stairs. He concentrated on controlled his breathing and his thoughts as he had been taught on sniper training all those years ago. Live for the moment, let nothing distract you. As the hours passed, the crowds thinned. Most ignored him, many looked down with contempt. Some tossed coins into his cup. Did best with men trying to show their caring side to their girls. If he survived tonight, maybe he could take up begging as a living. Maybe he'd have to. The militia looked down at him. At first, they took no notice of Caramarin as he wasn't actively panhandling for change. But later, one more aggressive than the rest rousted him on. Caramarin mooched around for a while before returning to a different spot higher up the stairs. After the sun went down, the evening chill gnawed into his bones and his thin trousers were no protection from the cold concrete. First Venus, the bright evening star, and then the moon came out. Caramarin crouched in the deepest shadows. Wished he still wore his combat jacket. After about 1:30 in the morning, the stairs were deserted. Occasionally, the odd passer-by walked past, but now he had the stairs to himself. Concentrate. Breathe. Live in the moment. Now it was time. 3 in the morning. When the body is at its lowest ebb and the blood runs slow. Still nothing happened. Then, staggering up to the Duck's statue. His vagrant. The lure of a bit of extra money too strong to turn down. The man rested. An arm on the statue's base, looked like he was going to piss against it. Stepping out of the shadows at the top of the stairs. Oil field. Even in the Darkness, Caramarin knew it was oil field. The gangster stepped up to the vagrant. The man started to straighten up just as Oilfield placed what looked like a white bottle to the back of the man's head. It was so quiet now, even from where he was sitting. Caramarin heard a dull pop. So that was how it was meant to go down. The vagrant collapsed like all the strings holding him together were cut. Instantly. Oilfield knelt and rolled the body over, then recoiled. Caramarin heard the gangster speak into his cell. "It's not him, it's some fucking tramp, boss." A pause. "No, I've no fucking idea where he is." Caramarin slid his CZ-75 pistol from out the sports bag. Oilfield started down the stairs. As the man came near Caramarin's position, maybe his sixth sense kicked in. "Huh," he said. Started to raise his silenced pistol. Caramarin's first shot ripped out his throat, his second punched a hole straight through his heart. The man fell back and died before he hit the ground. The gunshots and smoke filled the air, filled his ears and nose. Caramarin plucked Oilfield's cell from his pocket. Quickly pressed the last number on the calls dialed menu. "Everything all right up there?" I heard Marescu's voice. Caramarin cut in. "No, it isn't. Listen, you bastard. Last chance. Send Valeria and Vladimir up now or you're all dead." "Tough words, shithead. You've got 5 minutes to get down here before I kill 'em both, Capus." Marescu killed the call. Caramarin pulled his Kalash from the sports bag, then dived over the low wall into the park behind the stairs. He paratroop rolled and finished up behind a bush. No response to his actions. He crouched and ran, ducking and weaving, moving from cover to cover down the slope. Paused to catch his breath and assess the situation. The park was still and quiet, the only movement from branches swaying in the sea breeze. Light from the buildings on Primorskaya Street below filtered up through the park's trees. Caramarin couldn't see much of what was happening on the stairs, so moved closer, gripping the Kalash tighter. He carried on down the park slope, maybe halfway down now, keeping to cover, keeping one eye on the stairs. From below, a sudden burst of automatic fire. Shredded branches. Shit, at least one of them had a Kalash as well. A dog, a rail-thin stray, raced up the slope, ignoring Caramarin. He looked for the muzzle flash but couldn't spot it. Even at this time of year was still too much vegetation. The enemy must be jumpy. He distantly heard Marescu's voice calling up from below. Couldn't tell what he said but sounded angry. Holding his Kalash in the ready position, he crept downhill. Another burst of fire, this time much closer. The bullets chewed up the ground only a few meters ahead of his position. The muzzle flashes came from behind a small beach, maybe 50 meters away, although it was hard to accurately judge distance in this light. Another burst followed. Yes, definitely from behind the beach. Caramarin threw himself prone, unslung its stock and wedged the Kalash tight against his shoulder. He wriggled forward on his belly, using every scrap of cover and deeper shadow available. The other man stepped out from behind the beech tree. Was that VCR? Could be. Same height and build. Amateur, Caramarin whispered to himself. He fired, sending the slugs ripping into then out of the man's torso. The man had time to scream, a horrible yell, before he staggered backwards, then crashed to the earth. His scream ended instantly in a dull thump. Should have stayed at home, comrade. Chapter 40. Thursday, October 8, 3 o'clock. Caramarin rolled away back towards the stairs. Didn't want to fire again until he had a better target. He fetched up against the low white wall, took a big risk and vaulted over it back onto the stairs. A longer burst chased him over. Laying flat, face pressed tight against the larger stone landing separating the flights of steps. Breathing heavily, Caramarin knew that, due to the optical illusion of the stairs, those at the bottom couldn't see him. But anyone left in the park to the side would be on him any time now. He belly crawled along the landing, working his way along to the other side where the cable car tracks lay. Carefully, he avoided dislodging a cola can. He fetched up against the wall, separating the tracks. Sitting up, he glanced behind him. Nothing yet. With the glow of the lamps, he couldn't get true night vision. Saw movement in the bushes over the way. Raised his calash and sent a short burst over that way. Now his position was compromised. He hurled himself over the low wall and onto the cable car tracks. Immediately picking himself up, Caramarin moved in a low crouch downhill. Behind him, he heard someone walking down the stairs. Some man, no one he knew, weaving his way downstairs, well dressed, holding onto the wall for support. Some drunk businessman, maybe making his way down to the Hotel Odessa. Couldn't believe it. How had the man not heard the fight going on around him? Fuck off, go back, shouted Caramarin. Go back up. The man looked around owlishly. Looked like he was going to sit down for a rest. Go. Go now, screamed Caramarin. He fired one shot into the air. That caught the fool's attention. He turned and lurched at top speed back up the stairs, shouting incoherently. Like most drunks, when he needed to, the man had a remarkable turn of speed. Fucking hell. What next? The way this was going, he half expected to see a woman pushing a baby in a pram down the stairs. Wouldn't be a big surprise. In the relative quiet, now the drunk was halfway back up to the Duc de Richelieu. Caramarin heard the distant wail of sirens against the background noise of the city. Not much time left. Caramarin crouched and picked his way down the cable car tracks. Eyes everywhere, searching every scrap of cover, every dark shadow which could hide a man. Sirens wailing louder now, sounded like more coming along Primorskaya Street. Below. Not much time left. Caramarin picked up the pace. Vaulting over the low wall from the park, now on the steps themselves. Dmitro Litovchenko, holding another folding stock calash. Caramarin grinned, a terrible grin which would have frightened those he was trying to save. Placid raced in a low crouch across the expanse of the stairs, eyes fixed on the other side. He reached the opposite low wall behind which Caramarin hunkered. Caramarin stood with his calash at his shoulder. Hey, cunt, he shouted. Placid stopped. A horror of recognition on his face wiping out his steroid rage. A 7.8-gram round fired from a Kalashnikov's barrel leaves with a muzzle velocity of over 700 meters a second. Its muzzle energy is over 2,000 joules. At a range of a few meters, the bullet disintegrated the top of Litovchenko's head. One instant his skull was whole, the next there was just red oblivion. One instant the man was alive. The next he was burning in the fires of hell. Or so Caramarin hoped. The body crashed to the stone stairs, sprawled half over one of the larger landings. No other shots coming at him. Caramarin stepped over the wall and kicked Placid's body. It rolled down several steps before coming to rest again. Had to hurry. The sirens were definitely louder now. Keeping to the shadow of the low wall, Caramarin worked his way down the last few flights of the stairs. No one fired at him or challenged him. At the foot of the Potemkin stairs, he saw a couple of cars. Recognized Mărescu's Mercedes and BMW X5 SUV. No one about. Where the fuck was Mărescu or any more of his hoods? Where was Valeria? Caramarin peered into the murk but couldn't see in because of the tinted windows. Heard some sort of noise coming from the back seat. Aware time. Running out quickly now, he tried the door handle. Locked. No surprise there. Lifting his kalash, he smashed its butt against the window. The window shattered into 1,000 tiny squares. He smashed it again, harder, and this time the window glass fell into the car, letting in some light. Saw Valeria and Vladimir on the back seat, huddled together. Raised the lock, then flung the door open. Valeria's face was bloody from her nose. Her eyes were swollen shut and her blouse had been ripped down, exposing her breasts. Blood spotted her blouse and breasts. Caramarin saw the gray gleam of duct tape over her mouth. She was struggling to draw breath into her lungs. This side of her, Vladimir looked unharmed. But he also had been gagged, and the poor boy looked terrified, his eyes staring in the dark interior. Both were sitting with their arms behind them. Caramarin pulled his Swiss Army knife from his pocket, opened it and knelt on the back seat. Vladimir backed away, pressing himself against his mother. With difficulty, Caramarin leaned over Vladimir, then cut the cable tie binding Valeria's hands. The cruelly tightened plastic dug deep into her wrists. Cold metal pressed against the back of his neck. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Out, you wife-shagging piece of shit. Caramarin gradually backed out of the Mercedes and stepped away from it. Slowly raising his hands, he turned around. Mărescu's face was a mask of anger. Worse, he was holding a Makarov pistol with the barrel jittering in his hands. Less than a half kilo of pressure on the trigger and Caramarin reckoned he'd be joining Litovchenko in hell. The sirens howl much closer now. Endgame. Whatever happened now, it would be quick. Mărescu shouted a word. Not what Caramarin expected at all. Natalia. The BMW SUV's passenger door opened and in the interior light, Natalia stepped out. She was wearing skin-tight black jeans, designer no doubt, and a light colored jacket against the evening chill. Her blonde hair was done up in a high pony. Her mouth a tight slash of lipstick. Even under these circumstances, she looked good. Natalia took a few steps towards them. Caramarin glanced to his side. Valeria had left the Mercedes and stood by his side. She was rubbing her wrists where the cable ties had bitten into her flesh. Listen, your problem is only with me. Let Valeria and her boy go, please. Shut your whining, shithead. His senses on full alert, Caramarin saw a bandage poking out from under Mărescu's short-sleeved white shirt. They've done you no harm. They're innocent. Only me, okay. Caramarin spread his arms wide. Tried to brace himself for the pain and then black oblivion. Valeria slipped her arm around Caramarin's waist. Felt her warmth against his side. Her head only came up to his shoulder, but thought the woman had more courage in her little body than he had in his. Mărescu handed his Makarov pistol to Natalia. Prove what you said earlier. Shoot the fucking bastard, he said. Natalia looked at her husband, her mouth downturned. The pistol wavered in her hands. Don't make me. I can't, Natalia cried out. Natalia took a step to the side away from both Caramarin and Mărescu. Looked like she was now covering both men with the pistol. Her eyes filled with water, tears streamed down her cheeks. Round the curve of Primorskaya Street, Caramarin saw blue and red lights strobing off the buildings. The militia. Hurry up, barked Mărescu. The fucking militsy'll be here any second now. As if called by his words, the first squad car hurtled round the corner. The sirens howl now louder and more insistent. The car driving fast towards the group. The gun was still wobbling between the two men. She swung it from one to the other. Her face was a crumpled wreck of turmoil. Natalia's trigger finger tightened. Valeria threw herself forward at Natalia, knocking the pistol to one side. The gun fired, a blaze from the muzzle, the crack blasting above the siren's sound. Maresca fell back, coughed, covered his chest with his hand, looked at the blood trickling out from under his palm. He coughed again, or made a choking sound. Then fell to his knees. His eyes looking up, puzzled and disbelieving. The man collapsed face first to the floor. His body twitched. I was going to shoot him anyway. I just couldn't do it, pleaded Natalia. It's you I love, Nicolae. I know. Now come on. Quickly. He grabbed her arm and pushed her towards the BMW SUV. Start it up, he told her. Valeria plucked Vladimir out of the Mercedes and held him tight whilst Caramarin scooped up the Kalash from the pavement. The couple raced to the BMW and dived in moments before the squad car drew up to the stairs. Floor it, said Caramarin. The end. About the author. Freedom fighter, jungle explorer, international mercenary, Riviera jewel thief, jet pilot and gigolo. I've done them all. In my dreams. You can connect with the author, Morris Kenyon, by email at morris.kenyon@ymail.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you. Other books by Morris Kenyon. Morris Kenyon is rapidly establishing himself as an acclaimed writer of fast-paced, exciting thrillers. However, he likes to challenge himself and write in other genres as well. The Nicolae Caramarin series. Following the adventures of a Romanian gangster and hard man. Asterisk warning, these books contain scenes of a sexual nature, graphic violence, strong language, and drug abuse. They are not intended for those easily offended or persons under 18 years. You have been warned, so if you read them, don't blame me. Asterisk 200 steps down. When his crime boss in Odessa, Ukraine, decides to up his game by getting involved in people trafficking, Nicolae Caramarin must make a choice. Should he turn a blind eye to the horrors he witnesses and carry on being a good soldier for the gang, or take his stand and bring them all down in the only way he knows how? Asterisk lookin' for trouble. With little choice but to flee his home city of Odessa, Nicolae Caramarin must recover a gang boss's missing valuable painting if he ever hopes to return. He follows the trail to the windy and rainy city of Manchester. There, he soon falls into his bad old ways with the local underworld. But things soon escalate out of control. Who can he turn to for help? Who can he trust? Soon Caramarin finds himself relying on his strength and wits in a battle for survival where just staying free is a bonus. He follows his misadventures in Britain in the next story in the series. Asterisk 2 ways out. Having fallen on tough times, hard-bitten ex-con Nicolae Caramarin is lying low. However, he's thinking of going back to the only life he knows, crime. Yet, when an old friend asks him for a simple favor, he has no idea of the trouble he'll soon be in. Hours later he's standing in front of a murdered prosecutor's body, and dead center in the sights of a group of corrupt cops from Romania's Black Sea port of Constanta. Only question is how will Nicolae Caramarin get out from under and clear his name. Asterisk Sleaford Noir 1. McTeague's once trusted friend and associate, Whelan, has broken off part of The older mobster's crime empire around the East Midlands. Far worse, Whelan has also taken McTeague's much younger second wife, Claire, away with him. Knowing the rest of his empire will fall away or defect to Whelan if he fails to act, McTeague sends his trusted and lethal enforcer, Hennessy, to Sleaford to show Whelan who is chief and to take Claire back home. So Hennessy starts a campaign of violence until Whelan has no choice but to return Claire. But that is only the start of both gang bosses' problems. Sleaford Noir 2. One sleepy Fenland town. Two Polish chancers eager to make a fast buck with no questions asked. A group of businessmen with funny handshakes wanting to rake off big bucks from town planning contracts. A neo-Nazi bigot who'll jump at the chance of becoming mayor as his first stepping stone to total power. His bunch of thuggish skinhead hangers-on. Add a huge, abandoned industrial complex on the edge of town ripe for redevelopment. Put them all together and what could possibly go wrong? Except that matters soon escalate way beyond anything any of these groups expected. Welcome to Sleaford. Waver Tree Christmas, short story. Christmas 1855 promises no cheer for Walsh and Finnan. Living by their wits has left them hungry, cold, penniless, and living in a freezing attic. With no prospects, they are not enjoying any of the festive season. However, Walsh has come up with a cunning idea that may solve all their problems. The only trouble is that his plan involves a long walk in the snow and then helping themselves to someone else's Christmas. Will they carry out Walsh's plan or learn the true meaning of Christmas? The horror from the blizzard. Any scientific expedition to the Arctic expects plenty of risk. However, Dr. Wellham of Miskatonic University's survey uncovers far more than the usual geologic and ethnographic samples. In the severe blizzards of the far north, the team comes across a hideous object from an elder age. A relic that brings earth-shattering terror in its wake. This story is loosely inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's short story from 1918, Polaris.